Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of appreciation to Abraham Mohammed, Adam, Adrian Quintana, Alistair Main, Blue Ridge Ranger, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Chow Young Cat, Dank, Dave Rakia Gafford, David Robinson, David Wayne Foster, Daz Studio 68, Edwin Johnson, Erwin Jennisons, Felix Hung, Fireball X, God Rockin, Henrik 86, excuse me, Joshua Balsimo, Kirsten Smith, Liam Nedrick, Life is Short, Maria Neelands, Matt, Missouri Bear, Nagara, Nathan Thompson, Naibai, Rob H, Skeptic 936, Steve ALM, Texas Mike, theflatearthchannel.com, The Real Gabster, Tina Baker, Tom Herkins, Unbelievable Productions, and Windrider. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to all of you who support me on Patreon. Now we are joined by some guests in both Discord and G+, so I'll raise the mic on them, and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show. Before we get into that, I do a shout out to my Patreons each morning. I'm trying to make incremental improvements to the show. And one of the things I want to do is solve the echo in the room. Ah, you've posted it. I'll shut up.
All right, link posted.
Perfect. Does it have audio that I need to turn down?
Where's it posted?
Let me just
on the
it.
Discord channel.
It's on Lux Flat channel, which has now got 8 subscribers. So I'm going to share the link to the video. Live audience when we go live, and it's playing out now. If you want to explain it.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, one cargo ship, one tanker that is going up the REC in one of the closest channels that they can take. It just goes around the Coupland Islands, and it passes by Malile, where I was positioned. Camera's about 8 feet above sea level, and you'll see that. Well, I put a wee graph and stuff. You can sort of see the distance. I verified it with marine traffic. And there's a few wee things in it that, I mean, for me, it seems a wee bit strange in that, well, number one, I'm seeing all of the boat. There's no refraction on the main boat at 4 miles. The close-ups are at the very end of the video where you can actually see the bow wave. And you can see the bulbous bow as well, attached to the front of the boat very clearly. And at parts as well, you can see the back of the cargo ship, the Endurance. So you can actually see it. There's no refraction going on. There's no weird sort of, I don't know what you call it. But
Morning.
Weird stuff, you know. But in the distance, right at the background, you can actually see Scotland where there is refraction going on. So where's the horizon? That's my question. Because in some parts of the video, it seems to me that the horizon would be even higher than the boats. So the boats are defying any sort of globe logic. But I would look forward to some people's input on it, you know.
harder for the people in the Hangout to respond to you because obviously they're not seeing it, whereas my audience are, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, the horizon's behind the boat.
Yeah, now part of the video, obviously, one will go in front of the other. Although I said one's at 4 miles and one's at 5, I think it's probably closer to 4 miles for the first boat, but the second boat's probably 0.8 of a mile on the other side of it. Maybe not a full mile, but it's close enough.
Quite nice with your seaside sounds. I've turned it down so it's not intrusive. But it's
Yeah, and
not.
I forgot about the wind, actually. When I was doing the editing, I didn't realise the wind noise was coming through so much. You know.
Not a great deal you can do about it on a... You've got a P900, right?
Yeah.
If you've got a camera phone, it's one of those things that's so easily solved. Obviously, first and foremost, when you're filming on a camera phone, hold it horizontally so you get high res, as opposed to... Anyway, yeah. The other thing you can do is just cup the mic. The mic's on the end of the phone, i.e. where you speak into. You can just you can hold it in such a way that it's cupped with your hand, and then you're not affected by the wind noise. But like you say,
Oh, yeah.
on a camera phone, that's easily solved. But on a P900, there's... I don't know if there's attachments. I'm sure someone's cobbled together something that's a windsock of some description. But you just don't think about it, right? You're filming something, you're looking at it. Who cares about the audio to many extents? What are we listening for? Like what?
And it's not till you play it back you realise, oh, wow, that was windier than I thought.
Actually got a pretty good mic, the P900. I mean, it's not horrendous. It's not like most DSLR cameras. It's all right. You could listen to it. If you're talking and doing a voiceover on it, you can hear what you're saying when you're talking.
Yeah, it's not bad, but I find that there's a couple of codecs that don't work 100% with it. So I actually thought there was a fault with the camera at the start, but when you take the raw footage out and you put it into something like VLC, the sound actually gets all distorted, whereas if you pop it into a more standard Windows media player, it works fine. So I don't know, must be a codec thing. But it's good footage. I would have kept it going longer, but it looks nice, but it was actually freezing.
Yeah, it did turn yesterday. But my wife doesn't often notice pressure changes, but I'm really susceptible to my ears go all funny all the time when there's any slight pressure change. But yesterday it was like, wow, there's definitely going to be a massive amount of rain coming in when both our ears popped. And sure enough, you look at the weather and it's going to be pissing it down with rain, and it is now pissing it down with rain.
Yeah, well, when I went down yesterday, I went out on a body warmer, not realising that the northeast wind was going to cut through me like a knife.
But who can blame you? The last 3 days preceding it have been idyllic, just glorious, right? But that's probably why the pressure's changed so much and now it's cold.
Now, if anybody is watching this and you get to about 5 minutes, you're going to see the close-ups. And the close-ups of the boats, there's no distortion there whatsoever. No refraction. Nothing. I think the boat was traveling at that point, I think it was 13 knots, I think. So, not really pushing out big waves. But as I say, at part of it, when you look at the boats and there's absolutely zero refraction, and they're sitting, you can see the waves, see the bottom of the boat, you can see it all. And then when you look at Scotland behind it, you'll actually see a refraction layer, or whatever that's called. I'm not 100% sure, but when you look at the refraction sort of band or the mirroring, it would make you believe that the horizon seems even higher than that. It's so a strange one.
Neil, check.
Hey, Neil.
How's everybody?
Doing fine.
Mighty fine. Pretty good. Oh, thank you for presenting it. I've got it, as I say, I've got it playing through again.
Yeah, no problem. I'll be putting up more now that the better weather's coming in. I'll be down taking more videos. Hopefully, get some clearer ones on a warmer afternoon.
Well, you might find that the reason it's so clear is because of the colder weather. You know, a lesser differential between the temperature of the water and the temperature of your air. So, might not be a bad thing. Regardless of how cold your arms got, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, tell my old bones that.
Yeah. But yeah, you're quite right. I can't deny the clarity of what you've captured.
Yeah, and the zoom out at the end, sort of gives you an idea of the distance and whatnot. But that would be the closest that the tankers and the cargo ships can get to the shore. That's they tend to vary between that and the furthest, I think, on the main one where the Stena line goes up and down, is about 14 miles.
Is that the stats that you had up right at the beginning of the video?
Sorry?
Is that the stats that you put up right at the beginning?
Yeah, that's those two channels that you can see. I had to superimpose one on top of the other from marine traffic to give you the two. When those two ships were going up, that was the live feed. Obviously, it was on my phone. I could see it, but by the time I got back home, I then had to quickly go get it up so as I could at least get the track before it was wiped from the memory of the marine tracker, so as I could get that route. And it's pretty accurate, actually.
And the mile markers that you put in up to 5.5 is the line of sight, right?
Yes.
I've stuck it up to like 6 minute mark. No, sorry, 5 minute mark, just so it plays out the zoom out at the end.
Oh yeah. I mean, I also have some footage somewhere where I'm actually zoomed in to Port Patrick, which is 23 miles away on the Scottish coast. And for any of you that don't know, Port Patrick is a port, which means it's on the shore. And at 23 miles, that's pretty good.
What's your height for this observation?
On that one there is 8 feet where I'm there at the minute on that video. Most of them are going to be, well, all of them are under 10 feet, but some of them are about 6 feet, others at 8.
So you're actually at the shore, and it's just you standing. It's just basically your height plus a couple of feet between you and the shoreline. Is that what you're saying?
That's it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, here we go. It's zooming out now. It's a long old way. When you zoomed that's the thing you see. Often people don't do that. You've got a zoomed in boat. When it's globe head evidence, it's just one cropped still. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
you
that's
don't
right. Yeah.
You can't get a grasp of how far you're looking at that boat from when you just see it nice and zoomed in and it's nice and clear, and the better the day, the less the distortions that you're going to get. And you just go, okay, well, that's just a nice picture of a boat. You go, yeah, but look at the distance. From this position, you can't even see the thing. It's not even there, right? It's completely gone. It's a long way.
Yeah, I mean, one of the other ones on the that I've put up, it's not an actual video. It's the one that's just got the photo I took of a tanker at 17 miles. And it's a bit hazy. It was a bad day, but I was able to get it on the marine traffic website. I was able to find out where it was to get the distance. But at 17 miles, you're seeing all of the boat. I think that says a lot.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chocolate.
Hey there.
Thank you again for that. So person talking in the Discord server is Grave Dodger, but the channel name looks flat. So subscribe today. I will dig out a link as I did for the other after show. Hopefully you'll pick up. So you picked up the grand total of 7 subscribers from my last plug. That's not surprising. It's, people don't know you. They don't know you.
That's okay. I'm not doing it for the subscribers. I'm just doing it because I like it.
No, I totally appreciate that. I get where you're not trying to build a massive channel or anything, but by the same token, if you put you're doing it because you love it. So in many ways, you're just the kind of person I want to recommend people go and subscribe to, not because they're going to get inundated with endless, beautifully edited content. Far from it, you're just out there doing it right because you like it. But that's normally the person that's going to produce the best material and has got something to talk about when they've produced it. And you are that man. So, I'm more than content, regardless of your ambitions on YouTube, to recommend you and recommend people subscribe. And I do. Subscribe today.
Well, thank you. Hopefully I'll have more regular content. I say now that the weather's a bit better, happy to get the P900 out and give it a proper test.
And you seem familiar enough with your equipment. It's not horrendously shaky. You've got a steady hand. You're not waffling all over the top of the footage so you can't narrate it afterwards. Things like that.
No, well, I've used not so much cameras, but I've used optics and for 30 odd years, I suppose, maybe longer. And I have observation binoculars and things. The ones, the big ones you'd set on a tripod that you'd see down the beach, similar to the ones you'd throw money into view. Things like that. Take them down the beach and you can get some fantastic views, using 2 eyes.
Binoculars are the way to go. Binoculars race. So my dad used to be into bird watching, and he had all sorts of not on a stand. And yes, I have used those that you're talking about, like fairground or on a pier or something. And they're very, very heavy. They're cemented in place so that they're sturdy. And even then, if you're not familiar with using binoculars, you struggle to use them because your hands aren't steady enough, even with them mounted.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, binoculars are the way to go. Fantastic using binocular vision to see anything in the distance. There is no comparison to seeing what you've just presented. Yeah, it's nice with your P900 and you're looking at a flat image on your TV screen with your binocular vision, but that's just doesn't compare.
No, and if I was to take my observation binoculars down with their, most of the money goes into the glass. It's extra load of dispersion glass, so it's so clear. There's no color infringement. It blows a camera away on what you'll see, and you actually get an appreciation for those type of distances and seeing the boats and things. Well,
absolutely.
And I know a GoPro. Or not a GoPro. A P900. Although they say it's 83 times magnification, it's not really. It's closer to about 15 if you were putting it into binocular terms. But it's still darn good.
Yeah, that's something that took me a while to wrap my head around because everyone's giving you all the stats and data and giving you these numbers of magnification, and you're like, I'm not really a camera user. I used to sell them. I worked in a camera shop selling cameras, and I could rattle off the stats as a salesman, but I didn't really use any of the equipment. It was in the shop. But at home, what I use is binoculars, telescopes, magnifying glasses. I want to see it with my eyes, basically. So the appeal was always in terms of much more towards the telescope or binoculars. Especially binoculars, I can't sing the praises enough. I'm waiting for the day that all the new VR technology that they're currently punting, which is for 2 eyes, in computer gaming, maybe just maybe one day they'll be able to offer something that's even close to what you can get with a pair of binoculars. But yeah, I live for that day. It'd be nice to see sort of a binocular vision of the stars. On a
Maybe
TV,
someday.
Gear VR or whatever they call it. That'd be ace.
Yeah.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined, shout out immediately to, let's turn my light off so I can actually read the damn thing, Trey Clark Theories, is it? For the super chat. Thank you very much indeed for your support. Now we are joined by Bev Try Thinking, Righteous Force, 10th Man, Chocolate Sane, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hey.
Morning.
Yo.
Hello. So we've spent a good chunk of the pre-show chatting with Grave Dodger. Now his channel's called Looks Flat, and there is a link in the info box, but this show will go out on Wednesday on my second channel, Nathan Oakley. So be here or be sphere for the Flat Earth Debate. What is it, 11:53? Uncut and after show. So check it out. It'll be on my second channel on Wednesday. But going through, I think we'd call that a black swan based on the distance to those boats. That is a black swan. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I thought it was.
Well, based on the measurements. I mean, it's just simple maths, but yeah, that's a black swan. Very good. Thanks again to Grave Dodger. Hello, Arwin. Perfect timing.
Hello.
Any signs of a physical Earth curve edge? Geometric horizon, formerly known as Earth curve?
Not from Vero Beach.
I've been looking at some stuff, and yeah, they still claim it. Boats going over that curve, and I've been looking into McToons's cited sources on Level, and that seems to have it as a geometric curve. You know, that's still there, cited in what McToons says and Jesse Kozlowski.
Maybe you misunderstood the question. I wasn't looking for a citation.
Oh, okay.
I was looking for an actual physical sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Oh. Just diagrams with letters and numbers, I think.
I see. Citations and diagrams. No, I mean in the really is level of things. On the really is level.
Yeah, they keep citing it though, as though it is a real thing, that all of these things that McToon says. I mean, they keep citing it, and that's their proof. So
I see. So if I keep bombarding you with citations about unicorns, do we need to say any more?
I think so, yeah. I think that's the way it works, actually. We might be able to make unicorns real if we keep talking about them.
No. Likewise, you can't make a non-physical, non-geometric horizon physical and geometric merely because you cite it in a model that you reify over and over and over and over and over at nausea. That doesn't make it a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, especially when we're currently in a state of affairs where we get a geometric horizon hand wave. We do not see the geometric horizon that used to block boats and buildings and be calculable of how much obstruction there was. We don't see that. That's what we've got currently.
Yeah. So when they look at them citations or whatever, and they see a curve, then that's what they imagine, right? You know, it's just an imagined curve that they're looking at on a picture, but they don't actually read the words. When they read horizontal wrote underneath it, and they see a curve, then the words don't seem to go in, but the curve that they see in the picture.
Right on.
Does that make it real?
No. Again, we're talking on the really is level. as opposed to on the not actually cited in a book, reified from a model level.
So these people that just say I'm wrong when I say level is horizontal might just be delusional.
How can you say that statement's wrong? Just repeat your statement and then let anybody be a moron and declare you wrong in that statement of fact.
Yeah, level is horizontal. Yeah. So I say that as a statement. That is that's a claim I'm willing to make.
I don't think it's a claim. I wouldn't call that a claim. Likewise, when someone says, well, you're claiming the second law of thermodynamics. No. Laws of nature and, you know, it's just, that's just is what it is, right? That's a statement of fact. It's not a claim.
Well, yeah. Well, so then the people that are denying that are denying statements of fact because they have, I guess, a model that they have to imagine a curve. I don't know. I'm really struggling at the minute.
Yeah, wrapping your head around fundy religious belief is often quite troubling if you try and, you know, step into their shoes with a bit of it. I do it all the time. I feel their pain through empathy. I have to empathise with them to understand where they're positioning their argument, the logic that they're utilising, the cognitive dissonance they experience to argue the way they argue. Well, unfortunately, the empathy I don't know if it's called projecting empathy, but whatever the wording is, that means that I have to, in some small way, feel their pain to feel my way through their nonsense arguments. Well, in this respect, you know, there are certain points in the cognitive dissonance where there is no squaring of this circle. You know, saying that a straight line is bent, that can't be squared cognitively. You know, there is no way around that straight line.
Can't you just say that horizontal is perpendicular to a sphere?
Well, you can if you're a Freemason. You know, but isn't that what they do?
Right.
Squaring
You
the circle
can't.
and all that.
No, geometrically, you can't. A perpendicular is two straight lines. You can't have a perpendicular to a curve. You can't measure an angle to a curve. You need two straight lines in order to measure an angle.
Yeah, I realise that. But what I'm saying is, the nature of the world being as it is, a flat and level plane, topography aside, yeah, I'm keeping up with your videos, Bev. Anyway, topography aside, we are dealing with a level surface, a plane, if you will. So in order to make that plane a sphere, you must, so to speak, circle the square. Well, we're talking sort of Freemasonic doublespeak in that kind of way. You know, transposing imaginary geometry onto, you know, really reality-bound axioms, which is what you deal with and talk about. So the fact that you're challenged and things that you state are claimed to be claims, it's just kind of, to me, absurd, but that's the world we live in, right? We have to argue that something that's a fact is suddenly a claim you're making because they have a ridiculous axiom that doesn't make any sense, that they impose on things that do make sense and doublespeak their way around it. That's the world we actually live in, because we've got a world that's a plane being described as a sphere. Somebody's circling a square somewhere, and it don't make sense.
Pseudo means real.
Does pseudo mean real? Yes! No, Compass, no, it doesn't. That's just where you're revealing your hand, showing your cards, letting my audience know that you're deceiving them, that you're a liar. Moving on.
Yeah, we did have another uphill river, whether that's...
I knew that's why I did a trimmed out show on it when you discussed it, because I knew that's going to turn into a thing.
yeah, we had a new one today. I put it in Master B. The Nile goes uphill 532 miles.
No, it doesn't. No, that's nonsense. Rivers flow downhill. Yeah, or they create lakes where they back it up. Anyway, let's move on. Any signs of axial rotation?
Not of the Earth-based variety.
No Coriolis wanting to be argued by anybody?
Well, there is Coriolis effect. You know, it's just not caused by globe Earth spin.
No, that's right. There is no Earth-based Coriolis effect. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No. I don't know where it is right now. Just a lot of clouds.
Somebody drew a
how do
triangle for me the other day.
That's lovely, Bev.
How
That's
do-
lovely, Bev. Hold on, sorry. Go ahead, whoever in Discord's trying to pipe up. Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just wondering, how do they measure the sun? Like, how do they do it, or how do they claim it still sticks and shadows?
Well, and the insertion of an R value. Shout out to Tom Kelly. Says, Jose JG, much better show. If you want a super chat to plug Jose, more than welcome to do so in my super chat. Thank you very much indeed, Tom Kelly. Yeah, they just insert R. They adjust their angles based on the presupposition that they're on a sphere.
Or I just thought I had some crazy technology machine to do it, like they shoot lasers at the moon, or. But
No,
yeah, just not too sure.
Just assume it's a sphere to begin with. Insert an R value. It's all very crude, really.
You would think they would have all this, latest, newest technology, right? All the new hotness. But for some reason, when you ask them where they get this radius from, they still say Aristoteles and Al-Biruni and all these people that thousands of years ago. It's like, all right, so who did it last month? Who did it last week? And how do
The
they do it?
distance to the sun is presupposed with a triangle. They make a right angle triangle between the moon, the earth, and the sun. That's your right angle there on the earth. And then, of course, they know the distance to the moon. So they just do a bit of
Aren't they
trigonometry.
the same ones that tell us that the sun is always in an apparent position? How do you triangulate something like that? How does that work?
Just draw a triangle, put the moon there.
Oh,
It's like a right angle triangle. Yeah.
just do it, and it works. It's great, isn't it?
Probably the best compliment I've ever had rolling by. Seeking Starwater. Thanks, Nathan Oakley 1980. Your skill in debate has helped me improve my relationships with others. Holy cow. No way. I'm slightly lost for words. If that's so, thank you for the compliment. I don't know how that's helped your relationships with others.
I can see that easily. Because it's almost like a skill, learning how to speak and be able to respond to people depending on what they say, right? So, yeah, obviously, if you learn more about how to listen to people and point out where maybe they're committing some type of a fallacy, if it's not like really a debate, but just that communication technique, yeah, I could see that helping relationships, definitely.
Ah, I see.
So it's not the you fundy moron. That's the key line there.
That's what I was waiting for. Someone else to make that gag rather than me.
That's when it gets to that level. Yeah. That's when fundy moron. That's when there is use for that. Trust me.
Check it out. Clear has jumped on the bandwagon with a super chat and says, Nathan, I've lost 60 pounds since watching your show. I lost 60 pounds with Flat Earth debate. You can too, holding a big stretchy pair of sweatpants out.
Oh, I bet Flat Earth debate does great during like workouts. Like, why would you listen to music when you can listen to Nathan just smash globers?
I need a pseudoscience infomercial with a guy in a white coat walking around going, supporting Nathan Oakley can help cure depression, lose weight, and help your relationships. Support Nathan Oakley now. Super chat here. Not endorsed by the Medical Association. Blah, 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 blah. Lots of other disclaimers.
That's great. Oh, thank you.
Can I make a comment about the pseudoscience thing real quick? I think it was funny. I was thinking about this yesterday. How they have to say science changes the definition of words. Did you notice that yesterday? Like what it means in the vernacular, regular vernacular, is different than what science uses. Think about that. Why would that be the case? Why would they have to change a definition like hydrostatic. You know, Zanuck would say, "Oh, you can't break the word down to understand its meaning." Well, then what does hydro mean? What does static mean? How does that? It doesn't relate, but it does relate. It's I don't know.
It's
You
just
gotta help me understand.
it's a fundamental denial of semantics.
citation? I'm sorry.
I was just going to say it's a fundamental denial of semantics. Words do have meaning. Otherwise, we wouldn't utilize them. Otherwise, when we use them, they wouldn't mean the thing that you meant when you said them. There would be no point defining them. It's a fundamental denial of semantics. So you can utilize colloquial definitions when scientific vernacular dictates that you must rigorously define each term. And that's what they're trying to get away from, because they need a really loose terminology for these words. Now, they need a loose terminology because the words that they're using are in the field of science. And when it comes to science, you've got to be super specific. And it's rigorous and it's empirical. None of the things that they actually have, but they want to use that scientific terminology to assert that they've got validity when they use their loosely termed colloquial meaning, not meaning the thing it actually does, terminology to lie, to make something not work with words that don't mean the thing they actually use it for.
Well, and it's like even the word pseudo force. Well, you know, if you've been centrifugal forces, even though you can say it's pseudo forces, there are still forces in play. You know what I mean? So you got to have the acceleration of the vehicle or the object. You got to have something, even the merry-go-round. There's someone had to push on the merry-go-round to get the merry-go-round started.
That's true.
You know,
yeah,
you know,
and they'll convolute between the two. Yes, that's correct. However, I've thought for a while we've been talking about drones taking off roundabouts and things. When this is Coriolis effect, so we're still talking about any evidence of Earth turn in this housekeeping question, if you like. Although we've moved on, but anyway, that aside. There's a much more simplistic way of describing this, not actual force of Coriolis, right? If you're on a roundabout and we're notwithstanding the fact that you've had to put energy and force into the roundabout to make it spin. Once it's spinning and you're on it looking out from the roundabout that spins, anything that is not on the roundabout. So in this case, by coincidence, in this playground, there's a lamp post that lights the park when it's at night. And you can see it from the spinning roundabout. So you're spinning around and you're looking at the lamppost that's concreted into the ground. Now, from your position, that roundabout looks like it's coming towards you as you spin towards it. Now, it's looking like it's moving is the Coriolis force. It's not actually moving. It's not actually coming towards you and then going away. And coming towards you and going away. It's concreted into the ground. But it seems to come towards you, and that seeming to come towards you is the Coriolis force. Well, it's not actual force because it's concreted into the ground. It's not moving at all. You're moving and observing an apparent deflection. The lamppost seems to move. It's not moving. Now, this gets hammed up and more complicated when you have something that's moving over the roundabout, like an aeroplane. And because you're travelling underneath the aeroplane on a spinning reference frame, it looks like the plane is curving past you. It's like, well, no, it's just travelling straight. But because you're spinning, it looks like it's curving. Well, the looks like it's curving is the not actual deflection, the Coriolis deflection, the not actual force of Coriolis making it curve. Because it isn't curving, it just looks like it's curving. So this is a pseudo force. There is no force moving the lamppost. There is no force bending the plane's trajectory. It just looks like it is. It's a not actual force. A pseudo sham force. Not a force physically moving a lamppost. You looking at it and it seeming to move because there's a pseudo, not actual, force applied to the lamppost. Not actual, pseudo. Sham, fake, fraud. Not real.
Well,
Did he ever give us the citation of pseudo meaning real in science?
They need it to be real because they've got things like gravity, pseudo Ramonian force space, bending of conceptual mediums. So they need pseudo to mean real because they're telling you a pseudo philosophical sphere Earth model's real and it isn't. Shout out to Grave Dodger. Sorry,
let's talk about the frames. That's okay. Let's talk about the frames of reference because Zanuck brought that up yesterday. Because you got the inertial frame, you got the non-inertial frame, and all this stuff. Well, even in that, Just because you're measuring something in the a frame of reference that you're measuring in, and that you can calculate the centrifugal forces through mathematics, that does not mean that that object that you're observing is experiencing that force or that so-called thing that you're measuring. Like, that's why I always ask the question now: if it's something's moving in a straight line, how can it experience centrifugal forces? And it can't. But now I can calculate that moving object in the frame of reference I'm in looks like it's, from my frame of reference, looks like it's experiencing centrifugal forces, but it's not actually. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the lampost's not experiencing any forces at all. But you can calculate how much it appears to move and deviate from its position as you watch it from a spinning reference frame. Well, that doesn't imply in any way that the lampposts move, just because you can calculate a seeming trajectory that it takes as it moves from your position spinning. It's still concreted into the ground. And in the same way, the plane's still taking a straight path. The fact that you can calculate a curved trajectory when it isn't taking one is the not actual pseudo force of Coriolis. And they've got a lot of not actual pseudo in the heliocentric model, because it's not actual pseudo philosophical, not real. Shout out to who was it? Grave Dodger. Grave Dodger's on the panel. Hey, Grave Dodger. He says, I've just lost £10 watching this show. 10th man taught me that. 10th man taught me that one, winky face. Thank you very much for the super chat, Grave Dodger.
Hey, did you read Rockia's?
Any more housekeeping questions? Did you do the vacuum next to...
Hang on. Did you read Rakia's super chat, Nathan?
Did I miss one?
Yeah.
Nathan, thank you. I've lost 33 unwanted friends. Strange number, don't you think? You're ace. Thank you very much for the super chat, Rakia Life. I've lost 33 unwanted friends. Confirmed. I like Rakia Life. I watch his videos because he's in construction and he loves what he does. And I watch him with his massive equipment going, yeah, man, that looks sweet. You operating massive machinery, moving stuff around, basically breaking the ground. Very, very cool stuff. I like big equipment. It's just cool. Of course it is. Big pistons flying everywhere and pneumatic this and hydraulic that. You're like, yeah, sweet. And he puts up videos saying things like, I love my life. You're like, yeah, man. Wicked. Shout out to Rakia Life.
Let's not forget, we must embrace the fiction in our science.
That said, there's somebody it should be me saying, the guy on the panel, thank you very much. Yes, we have got lots more housekeeping questions, completely sidetracked with humorous things.
They've done the molten core?
No, it was on screen a minute ago, though. So, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
What do they do? Don't they do the seismic waves? Do you know any more on that?
Yes. So, when they did I can never say it, the Russian hole to hell, 8 miles deep. Well, when they did that, they scanned the ground for what they thought they would encounter as they dug down, and they were wrong. They didn't encounter what they thought they were going to encounter. So not very reliable in that regard.
And that's and then 7, almost 8 miles. But they want to tell you what's 4,000 miles down? Yeah. that's cute.
Yeah, I seen they were supposed to hit certain minerals and types of dirt. Yeah, and it was completely different. I've seen that.
Yeah, like water. They'd hit water when they didn't expect to and things of that nature. And you're like, okay, well, if you can't get it right digging down 8 miles, but you expect us to accept your predictions down to the centre of the molten iron core, 39.59 miles, then nah, I don't think so.
Also, the molten iron core is supposed to produce a magnetic effect, but if you melt iron, it loses its magnetic property.
But just based on the temperature, it's beyond the Curie point, so it wouldn't generate a magnetic field unless it was self-perpetuating. So that's why it's phrased in the way that it is. Thanks mainly to Anthony Riley challenging, what was the guy's name? Paul something?
Paul Voigt.
Paul Voigt, who is still withholding the evidence that he apparently has for the molten iron core. So, I mean, I shouldn't speak too much, because it's at least 2 years and hasn't been forthcoming.
So that's
any day.
Any day.
That's pretty much the two evidences, that seismic waves, which was wrong, down 12 miles or whatever, and magnetic properties, which doesn't work when you melt iron.
And a backstory that's beyond belief. Shout out to James. Is it I should really read these on the other monitor. Magdalene? Scroll it down. Magdalene. Hope I'm saying your name right. Hey guys, great show. I've been watching for a long time. Well, thank you very much for watching, Joseph. I really appreciate your super chat. Thanks for being here. Got a few more housekeeping questions to rattle through. Is there any evidence of the presupposition itself, the R value, Earth radius? Debunked by the Black Swan, by the way.
Black Swan.
Well, they're trying to work on what it is now. So it seems.
What it is now. the new R value.
Yeah.
They're working on it. Yeah.
UKPI dropped a super chat. Isn't UKPI a globehead? Either way, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, get a grip. Thank you very much indeed for the $2 euro, whatever it is, super chat. Thank you very much indeed. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Gravity. A gradient.
We'll come to that. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
It has to be there. Why else would there be a gradient?
They would say gas pressure nowadays.
Real.
Yeah, mostly down. So, because mostly down, gravity, it makes sense.
Beyond mostly down, is there any scientific evidence of gravity?
That's a good title for a book, Beyond Mostly Down.
Independent
Does it
variable is
mostly
the
down?
apple, and,
Wouldn't mostly down suggest sometimes up? Which would negate the down. How's it going? How's it mostly down? Sorry,
keep hearing perpendicular.
Sorry, say that again. I just heard perpendicular come through. Go ahead, Bev.
Yeah, I keep hearing perpendicular whenever referring to them, whenever they talk of a vector. And as we should know by now, that perpendicular requires two straight lines in order for a perpendicular, geometrically speaking, of course.
So horizontal, vertical, 90 degrees. A perpendicular.
Yes.
Or it's just a straight line and a very big sphere. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not possible.
You mean like the old school straight line that was actually straight, or like the new straight line which has curves?
Right.
No, that's only a thought curve. It's
thought curve. Oh, okay.
Well, they were trying to yesterday on Discord trying to argue that, we can get a straight line out, but then we can get multiple lines, multiple straight lines can make a curve. So
Disco Inferno.
And then they started arguing about the slope, which I'm talking about. Well, what are you measuring? And they never would answer that, or they didn't hear me one of the two. And I was like, well, if it's sloping down, then how do you know the horizon you're measuring is not curving? We're not curving, but it's not refracted. I'm sorry. That's
you're not thinking in terms of a mirror ball. That's your problem.
Yeah, that's it. With just really, really, really infinitesimally small tiles on it.
Yeah, shout out to, I think the baller's name was Milo Lugo or something. It told us one day that circles are made of straight lines. Just remember that.
Yeah. So just
in preparation.
Are we referencing the disco ball with mirrors?
Yes, we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, chocolate! I can improve upon that. A circle is consistent of infinite amounts of straight lines. How about that?
Maybe on a computer.
Yeah, I think I'm sure that's what he was trying to assert.
I think you'll find it's the antithesis of that, actually, Arwin. There are no straight lines.
Zero, infinite.
But you can think of it as though they're straight lines.
Well, Arwin's description was correct for a computer.
Yeah, they
Infinite
keep
or zero, what's the difference, you know?
They keep going to spherical geometry, which is a fantastic thing because they like to call great circles straight lines, which if you think about that, and they do say that, then a straight line in spherical geometry returns to the same point.
No. Again, when you're describing things like tangents, which utilize straight lines, they're stretching out to infinity. They'll never, ever, ever come back to themselves, because then it wouldn't be straight. So it's the antithesis of their description, with this great circle being a straight line. No, that's a contradiction in terms.
Yeah. Special relativity, though, gives you the chance of having a straight line that does return to the same point. That's how orbits, I think, are made, to be honest.
Yes, I appreciate
Mathematically, of course.
Yes, orbits is a presupposition of falling around for an eternity. Yes, correct. Just begs the question. Correct. But is there any scientific evidence of gravity beyond begging the question of an orbit?
Perpendicular. That's about the best I can give you.
What
it has to be
do
there.
is that
Hold on. Go ahead,
Oh,
Nathan.
sorry.
Turns on me.
This turns me on.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that there.
Sorry. You want me to change? Yeah, the two, so you got Cavendish, and then the latest one is LIGO, the detecting gravitational waves, which they made headlines, but there's heaps of skepticism about that discovery. So what, is it pretty much Cavendish and LIGO?
It does seem similar in terms of, yes, what you're claiming is a natural phenomenon is being developed within the apparatus itself at LIGO, and equally the same principle applies to Cavendish. Is that the juxtaposition that you're trying to draw? If not, maybe explain again.
I'm just seeing like what they believe proves it is, Cavendish and LIGO. Yeah. Those things are not the scientific.
Go on, 10th.
What is a gravitational wave in their world? What is that supposed to be?
Not too like this.
Let's just walk you through the steps of this. So the question on the table is any scientific evidence of gravity. Now, Nathan turns on me. If you can just give me the globe head position. So just if that's one word, LIGO, then that's fine. So any scientific evidence of gravity?
It's an effect.
Not you, Arwin. I just want to hear one word from you. LIGO, hopefully.
I don't believe it's evidence, LIGO, but
I appreciate that, but if you can just
everyone else
for the purposes of discussion, I'll just do it for you. So the scientific evidence for gravity is claimed to be LIGO. Yeah?
LIGO.
Perfect. So, what's the observed phenomena, first step of the scientific method? What's the thing, DV, dependent variable, thing, phenomena in nature that we're observing, first of all?
Things fall down.
Things fall down, LIGO, is it?
What they did, they were doing like this. It was like a massive Sagnac or Michelson-Morley experiment, just on a bigger scale.
We're already talking about. See, here we go. Perfect. You're excellent. You've been led beautifully. So we're already talking about step 3. It seems we're talking about what's happening in the experiment stage. We're nowhere near that yet. We're at step 1, not step 3. But we seem to be talking about step 3. Isn't that a coincidence? Just like with Cavendish. We're straight on to talking about what happens in the experiment before we've actually figured out what the phenomena we're observing is. And now I appreciate you've said things fall down, go boom, boom, with a globe head hat on.
Hold on, Nathan. Can I interject for a second in there? Wasn't the LIGO experiment...
Experiment?
the LIGO thingy wasn't it either supposed to be measuring the bending of space-time or this new supposed particle that would be the cause of gravity? Wasn't it either one of those?
You tell me.
Because I'm pretty sure that that particle would be very disputable as to what it's actually even doing.
Well, this is lovely.
And yeah, the Einstein medium, of course, is pseudo.
Yeah. Well, this
Which
is
means
fascinating.
real, according to Rumpus. But
I just need to know what the phenomena they're studying is, that's all. They just need to know this effect that they want to know the cause of. If this is scientific evidence, right, we're going to figure out the cause of an effect. The dependent variable, the observed phenomena. We still seem to be skirting around it so far. The guy who's presented it's gone straight to the experiment and what it's doing, rather than telling me what we're trying to figure out the cause of.
I know what's causing the effect.
What effect?
The effect of things falling to the ground.
We're talking about LIGO. What's the effect that they're studying?
Oh, I don't know anything about LIGO.
That's what we're trying to figure out. So I've asked for scientific evidence of gravity, you see, and apparently this LIGO thing's looking at gravity. So we're trying to figure out how scientific it really is. And it's like Cavendish. You ask for what the observed phenomena is, and they start telling you what's happening in the experiment, step 3, not step 1. But there we go. We're going round in circles. Maybe I'll draw close to this.
Well,
they're doing gravity waves.
Gravity waves are wicked.
too sure.
Ace, we got there. Oh, wicked. Where do we see gravity waves?
They're measuring it with the light waves, shooting a beam of light, and the light will come back different or something.
I got a question.
Hold on. This is a naturally observed phenomena, is it? Or are we back to looking at what's happening in LIGO? Step 3, the experiment. What's the observed phenomena naturally occurring? What's happening in nature? Where am I seeing it? What's this effect that we're studying? I don't see.
I'll help him out, Nathan.
Hold on,
I'll be a
Paul.
globehead.
I know, but I will let you, Paul. But I don't often walk around and see what's happening inside LIGO and go, oh, I wonder what causes that. You know? Go ahead, Paul.
Sorry, I stepped away for just a second. Well, you know that all the material inside the LIGO is natural. You know, you got the light is natural, all the materials are natural. So technically, you are seeing a natural phenomenon inside that apparatus. So, yeah.
I see. So if I show you 25 seconds of an energy creating machine, self-perpetuating machine, and I claim it's an experiment, and then tell you that everything I've made it with is natural, does that make it real? A. B. An experiment, because everything inside it's natural.
Well, you're seeing a phenomenon inside of natural materials. That's what you're seeing, Nathan. Come on, don't you get this? You just don't understand. Come on.
Yeah,
it's real.
Man-made. Yeah, the reason it exists is because some man's put that together, though, isn't it? The man made it. So natural means not man-made. So if the phenomena only exists because it exists within the apparatus that's been made by man, then the phenomena's man-made because man made the phenomena happen with his equipment.
But hold on, the gravity was already there just because you made it.
That's just a begging the question. Yeah, Arwen's drawn a close. That's where the fundy, if there was one here, would just basically spew his rhetoric by way of chanting into your face with a begging the question fallacy. So what Arwen's done, because he's detected this is the end, I've even said so, he's gone, right, now it's time to just assert it's real with begging the question fallacies. Right, Arwen?
No, I'm just trying to point out that it's not technically gravity isn't being conjured in the apparatus because it's already everywhere. The apparatus just highlights it.
I see. So we're not scientifically validating it, gravity. We're just assuming it from the outset, right? Begging the question, are we? So we're not validating
gravity,
it.
Arwen?
We're not varying and manipulating something to cause the effect of gravity. We're not varying gravity to cause the effect of something else happening. We're just assuming gravity is real.
What is it supposed to be doing again?
Validating that gravity is real.
No, but the thing, what was it doing again? Like, what is it?
Well, that's a good question. Beyond your just telling us that it's real and we're going to assume it regardless of what it is or seeing it or touching it or varying it, we haven't got any phenomena to study. That's the point.
Apparently it's creating gravitational waves, Arwen.
Oh, awesome. So how does that
Awesome,
work?
isn't it?
How
Yeah,
do
yeah.
they do it?
What's gravity first before we can make it wave?
No, but just if there is a wave, right? So what? How do they do it? What is
So
happening?
now I'm taking the tact of, well, if there is a gravitational wave, well, what does that do and how does that work? So he's just slipped the presupposition into a sentence. He's picked up all these tricks from people like Rumpus, I'll point out. He's being a bugger. He's doing a good job, but he knows what he's doing. He's now slipped in the same exact presupposition, begging the question fallacy, as part of his leading question. Not going to get past me, Arwin, I'm afraid.
Wait, what year is this? It's 2018, right?
No, it's not. No, I was going to say, yeah, 2 years ago that might have slipped by. Not anymore.
Oh wait, it's 2018. Well, the body of science proves gravitational waves, bro.
That's been updated to the body of human knowledge now. It's now not the body of science, it's the body of knowledge. It'll soon become the body of understanding, and then it'll become the body of presupposition, then it'll become the body of fundamentalist globehead religious belief.
Well, Nathan, at least one thing's for sure. They named it properly, because there's no end where this lie goes.
I like it.
Good one.
Yeah, can I add something?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to add a caveat that is related to this discussion and what we're talking about right now. As far as the things that are falling to the ground, it appears that it's only solids and liquids that follow that rule. Gases don't seem to fall to the ground. They don't have strong intermolecular bonds between the molecules that make solids and liquids as dense as they are, that allows them to fall down because they can't be supported by the atmosphere. So there's still that caveat where it's only certain states of matter that follow that rule.
No, that's not true. So in the same way you can get the density gradient in liquids with the little cherry tomato and the cork and all the different types of liquids, you can get the same principle if you've got different types of gases. Now that's not to say that they're not going to disperse between each other, but ultimately speaking, you can still have various different relative densities of gas, and there are lighter gases and heavier gases. So no, that's not strictly the case. But you are correct in terms of there being no physical barrier between them to begin with. So they're going to disperse no matter what. The entropy law still applies. So for an example, if you pour sulfur dioxide, sulfur fluoric, whatever it's called, there's a long name for some gas that's man-made that they can pour into a fish tank. Does anybody know the name of the gas? It's been a few months since I've said it.
Was it sulfur
hexafluoride? Sulfur hexafluoride, perfect, thank you. So when you pour sulfur hexafluoride into a tub, they put a little piece of cardboard over it in the demonstration, pump it into the fish tank, and then show that you can float a tinfoil boat on it, because obviously it's still in the tank, and you've got the lighter air with its mixture of gases above it, and it's staying there. The fact is that all gases, including the sulfur hexafluoride and the air above it, have got gaps between them. So given enough time, the gas will still fill the space, because you've got gaps for other gases to dissipate in between it. As you correctly identify, it's not bonded. But that doesn't mean that you won't still have various different gases that will rise at a quicker rate through the other gases, despite the fact they're still bashing into the lighter ones and are all mixed up together. So yes.
Yeah, that is true, but you're doing the same thing that Hillbilly Blue Balls is doing, where you're not taking time into consideration. Yeah, the gas in the container is heavier, but over time it will diffuse into the available volume.
Yeah.
So the gases don't only have one vector, they have multiple vectors. They're not only moving down, they're moving in multiple directions. And so far, I haven't seen anyone show me gases in a container forming a gradient. I've never seen that ever.
Well, yeah, I can show you a demonstration of that, but you're saying you haven't taken... Hold on. You're saying you haven't taken into account time. No. Entropy is directly proportional to time.
Correct. So over time, the gas will diffuse into the available volume.
Correct.
Proving that it's not subject to only one vector.
Correct. So if you've got a long pipe with only a small hole, analogous to a tyre that's sealed up, but no tyre's got a perfect seal, hence you have to top your tyres up, then your tyre, from the moment you get it stuck on your wheel, or your pipe that you fill up with gas that's got a hole in the top of it, over time, the gaps between the gases will mean that the gas will dissipate and fill the available volume. The gas will fill the space, directly proportional to time. Likewise, your tyre, eventually the little molecules of gas that are keeping your tyre inflated will bounce off the walls and then bounce off the rim of the wheel and then bounce off the walls of the tyre, but then they bounce off a gap where it's not perfectly sealed. Now, it might only be 1 particle a day that happens to hit the bit that's not sealed. But over time, the tyre deflates because time is proportional to entropy. That's how you measure it.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I was muted.
Just one more housekeeping question. Oh, go on.
And what causes the layers is temperature, right?
Say that once more.
What causes the gradient is temperature?
No. So all the gases are produced at ground level, and therefore the highest concentration is going to be at that location on the ground. And when I gave the analogy, I was told, oh, it's poor because you've used heat rather than pressure when describing this with a kettle. So my example is you boil a kettle, and when the vapour starts to come out the spout, if you put your finger over the spout, you'll burn your finger because there's a higher concentration of gas. Not describing the pressure and how much it forces itself against your finger, but how much it burns you because there's a lot of it, enough to burn you. Now, as you move your finger up and away from the spout, there's less and less concentration of the vapour coming from its little factory, a kettle. Well, likewise, with all gases, the higher you go, the less ground level there is to produce the gas, therefore there is less of it. So it's constantly being produced at ground level, more and more pumped out, and that then works its way up. Now, it wouldn't form at all if we weren't contained. It must be. It's an antecedent to have the gas pressure in the first place. So if you want to rewind in a heliocentric paradigm to the Great Heavy Bombardment, when that first piece of gas worked its way to the surface, how did it stay there? How didn't it just immediately evacuate into the available volume and disappear, never to return to the rock that is your fantasy of a sphere Earth in a vacuum? You'd never actually achieve gas pressure ever if we were in a vacuum. So the fact that we have gas pressure and they say, well, that means there must be a sky vacuum because we do have gas pressure. No, that just means it violates natural law. The gas would fill the space. We'd never achieve gas pressure if the sky was a vacuum. It isn't.
That's good. Yeah, I like the kettle analogy. That's makes me.
Any more on this subject? Scientific evidence of gravity? Gas go down, go boom boom.
Well, I think you hit a point there. If you ask a baller, how did the gas get here in the first place? What is their uniform answer to that? Just pretend you're Johnny Globehead. What would you say if I asked you that question, Nathan?
As a globehead, how would I say gas got here? I'd say...
in the first place, the first time.
Well, they wouldn't answer that. You don't get an answer to that. You can't have gas pressure without a container. If you actually get an answer out of them, it'll affirm our position. Like conspiracy cats. Quote, 2019, conspiracy cats. Without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote. Absolutely affirming our position in line with the second law of thermodynamics and gas law. His answer is correct. That's his response to this very problem. And what does it do? It annihilates his presupposition that he's got a sky vacuum. Because without the container, there can be no pressure. End quote.
Right. So, to me, you're giving, in a sense, the black swan argument for gas pressure because the globeheads have to assert it's here because they say, look, it's here. We feel it. We breathe it. But then when you say, how did it get here in your model, the way you see things as how they became what they are? Well, like you said, where was the first one? And where would it go without a container? You would never have it exist now if it wasn't the container. I'm just saying it's a really good argument.
Shout out to the first pioneer gas molecules that decided to not act like gas.
Oh,
You're awesome. Thank you.
Got a whole backstory for them, haven't we, Chocolate?
No, I was just shouting out the those first few pioneer gas molecules that decided to not act like gas.
That's the ones we're talking about. Those, the story of the rebellious gas particle, that first one after the heavy bombardment, that went up to the Kármán line, an imaginary place, and said, I'm not going to carry on travelling in this direction that I'm travelling in without anything to bounce off. You know what? I'm going to take off my bra right here and burn it. I will no longer be subject to natural law. I'm going to stay with this planet because this planet looks nice and I want to go through some human's lungs someday, so I'm not going to behave like gas. I will burn my bra in rebellion of gas law.
Hell no, we won't go.
Right, last.
So are you saying that they
Go on,
have
Neil, go
free
on.
will?
Can you repeat that?
So does the gas pressure molecules, whatever they are, they have no free will, right?
No, they're completely sentient. They decided of their own volition that law did not apply. They're like us. No, I'm not going to stay inside. I need sunshine. Well, this gas said, no, I'm not going to go into the sky vacuum in this current trajectory without anything to hit and bounce off of. I'm going to stay here. They took off their bras and said, this is the line. I draw the line here. I call this line Kármán.
So that's it then. You figured it out.
Yeah, and that's the story. And that is the story of the rebellious gas particle. It's true because we made it up ourselves.
So now we got a bunch of topless gas molecules running around all over the place. It's great.
Now we know why the Kármán line has a female name. Now we know. Kármán, female name.
Yeah, it's the line. It's the line they took off their bras and burnt them and said we will not be subject to gas law. Those rebellious gas particles. Thank God, otherwise we'd all
What
be
if
dead.
they suddenly rebel?
Because they knew that one day it would be a very big problem for a heliocentric religion with gas at pressure in a sky vacuum hurtling at unbelievable speeds. So they said, we won't stand for that being a problem for fundamentalist religious globehead zealots. We're going to burn our bras. And we're going to stay here in defiance of natural law. That's what those rebellious gas particles, that's why they did it. Likewise, that's why Thea smashed into Earth at a glancing blow to give us a very convenient, large, oversized molten iron core, self-perpetuating magnetism. That's why, lucky old us, Thea smashed into us long before it was a problem for us, and at that point, when it developed the moon, we developed gas pressure, and we developed that gas pressure because those gas particles on screen now, they got up to the Kármán line. Let's say it's about here. It's arbitrary, it doesn't matter, but we'll say it's about here-ish. And the gas got up to about that point and said, you know what? There's nothing to hit, but I'm going to stay here. I am a rebellious gas particle, sentient. I've got intelligence, I know what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing. Because otherwise, there is this black area being a vacuum, 10 to the minus 17 torr. That's a very big problem for people who think that this area is a globe at pressure without anything to press on.
We have a gradient.
Yeah, that's very nice. You wouldn't have that either without a container.
Can I just read you something from Discord?
If you like.
You don't know the difference between gas pressure and atmospheric pressure.
Atmo means air. Sphere means fundamentalist religious presupposition of Earth shape.
What's the rhetoric within the globe model and how they got the water and gas on the Earth to begin with? What was the rhetoric?
I just gave it you. Don't you... Oh my
I
God.
know.
Paul, don't you understand?
I know. I've got a point. I've got a point.
Paul, don't make me shout at you. Don't you understand? I just told you 2 minutes ago. We made it up ourselves.
Well, I was just thinking, because I think they say this comet struck the Earth, bringing all the water and oxygen and all that stuff. This gas had to overcome not just its own nature, but all this tremendous amount of heat. So wow, these gas particles really had the thing going on there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well,
and that came from a vacuum. That's even more awesome.
It's proper hot, man. It's the thermosphere. That's why do you think they took the bras off in the first place? I mean, God.
Well, how do you have liquid water without pressure? Just wondering. All vacuum chambers prove that. You got to
It's the
have
same
pressure to even
answer.
have liquid water.
It's all contained within the story of the rebellious gas particles. Don't you understand?
I hope this
I
story
don't
becomes
understand.
the story.
I don't
Ah, you see,
understand,
there it
Nathan.
is.
I'll be the one to admit I don't understand. I don't get it.
See, that's the problem. Now it's time for ridicule. You see, he doesn't understand the story of the rebellious gas particles. He's a Dumbo. Now, do you want to be a Dumbo like Paul? I don't think you need telling off like Paul, do you, audience? So you need... It's in your best interests, because you don't want ridicule, to understand what I'm telling you. And I assure you, I am absolutely the authority when it comes to rebellious gas particles. I've got a theory. It's written down. So understand, morons. Rebellious gas particles burning their bras at the Kármán line. That is the way it is. Don't you understand? Do you understand now, Paul? You do understand, don't you?
Okay, I will give in to peer pressure. I understand.
Good.
What's the line above the Kármán line?
The party line.
If they burned their bras at the Kármán line, it would have to be the strapless line above it, right?
Maybe. You just make it up. Just as long as it's gone through, what's the word? Consensus, peer review. As long as we all agree, then that could be part of the story too, but we'll have to talk about it later.
I like the rebellious gas particle that stopped. I like that story. You should work on it. Make a children's book.
You better like it. It's real.
Yeah,
Well, don't put any pressure on me. I like it just naturally.
Don't put pressure on you.
It's got no pressure.
There's no pressure on these particles, man. They're chilling out. They're burning their bras. There's no pressure on nothing.
Oh, man.
Right, we've been
They're
on
doing a higher science.
we've been on for 57 minutes, and there's still one more housekeeping question. So, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
This leads into my thing, if you'll let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is how it was explained to me by somebody. He said, "You like sports, Neil, right?" I said, "Of course." He goes, "Look at the Major League Baseball when it first started, and look at it now. Look at the National Football League when it first started, and look at it now." So basically, he was telling me that back then science is primitive, and now they're more advanced.
So, is that a
I don't
single
get it.
viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, or what?
So what? But that's not science. He's trying to tell me that the scientific method is just science. It's what they do now, the astrophysicists and all of these other people. That's the higher science.
Ah, I see. Their priesthood is above the empirical method, established and detailed as science, because they say the word science and they've got nice coats. Modern, shiny. With that, I'll say if you're watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 live stream, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Again, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making the live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Science
Told
has
you what.
advanced.
I think Neil says it best. What is gravity? I don't know.
I don't know. Next question.
Spendy space.
That was a fun live show.
Yeah, I was shocked when that guy told me that. Comparing football and baseball when it first started and science all in one. Trying to tell me that it's not really science back then. That was just the beginning. Because what we're doing now is the real science. Holy shit.
Called a false equivalence, comparing the economic and structural growth of a football team with the progression of empirical evidence given to you by scientists. That's not really the same thing. But I see what you're saying. That's your point, right?
But that's the level they're on. They have to make what they believe in real.
So then why when you ask these guys for, let's say, proof of R, they say they still refer back to Aristophanes 2,000 years ago? I thought the real science was now. But it's still sticks and shadows? Still? We're still on sticks and shadows. Or looking at refracted horizons. What the hell's going on? Where's the today
I'm not as
science?
quick as you, Chocolate. I should have thought of that.
Nah, it's all good, man.
No, but they do appeal to the new and shiny rather than the old and busted. When they talk about things
New
like
hotness.
LIGO, but yeah, the new hotness, that's the one. They know that LIGO's the new hotness. But again, it's very quickly dismantled when you establish whether or not it's actually got any scientific validity, or is it just a giant circus sideshow? Well, it's a giant circus sideshow if it's not actually providing them with any scientific validity to this claim of this thing that they've presupposed.
And then they don't even
I
refer
just
to
wanna-
their new hotness. They refer back to their old and busted Newtonian Cavendish crap.
Exactly.
Which he
Exactly.
wanted nothing to do with.
Precisely.
I just want to see what like what everything looks like like a map. Or has anyone tried to figure out the maps? Because we've got plane times and flight times and everything. Has anyone? I don't know. Do you know anything about that? Or know
there's been
anyone
plenty
who's
of
made?
yeah, in Flat Earth in the whatever it's been 4 or 5 years I've been here. There's been plenty of wannabe cartographers. However, as time has progressed, I've realised that even if you're describing it literally, and you'll understand why I say that in a minute, even if you're describing these maps literally, the map is not the terrain. So you're reifying a model into existence when you lay out what is the terrain on these maps. Now, maps as a metaphor are the things that are used by the, if you want to call them that, philosophers of our age, or of ages gone by, if you believe the history books as they're written and given to us. So when you use this description of a reification fallacy in a more overarching way, you're saying that the maps and models of life, not necessarily just the specific actual terrain, are what are utilised to brainwash you and control you. So the maps and models is more overarching than just literally talking about the piece of paper that describes where the land masses are. Our rulers give us maps and models on life in general. And the physical nature of our world can be compared and boiled down simplistically to just a circular or spherical map. But there's a lot more to the levels of control that are applied through these maps and models when you talk about them in a much more overarching way, or a more general way. That's the word. That make sense?
Kinda.
If you imagine if you went to, I only say this because it's where I've got it from. If you went to a monastery and it was very religious and they taught you certain disciplines and how to behave, well, they're giving you their model of the world. It isn't necessarily a map of anything. It's not even a map. But they're presenting you with a model, a way of being. So when I say model in a more overarching way and use the reification fallacy, which is to say the map is not the terrain, the model is not the territory, the model isn't what the world is, it's just a way of perceiving it, a philosophical outlook. And that might be presented to you by a monastery in a worldview and an outlook in terms of how you behave and how you operate. It might be presented to you by your government in terms of a way of perceiving rules and regulations. It might be given to you by a cartographer in terms of an actual map, which is what you're asking us for the ground we stand on. And I'm saying when I used this description of the reification fallacy, there's a lot more to that description than just battering the idea that a sphere Earth model is not the ground we stand on. That's also true and also a philosophy. But there's a lot more to what is reified, because the models aren't necessarily as blatant as a piece of paper with ground on it. Our models are much more, there's much more to the models we're presented in terms of the way we're forced to live our lives by the people who control us than just maps and sphere models. Does that make sense? A bit more? Maybe, maybe not.
I'm trying to grasp it, but just like an outline. It doesn't have to be spot on, but we can have an outline of a house, on the dimensions of the house, the outline of a town, the outline of a city, then keep going. Like, I want to see like the true outline of the countries and the continents.
Yeah.
I think I know what.
But,
I think I know.
Sorry.
No, I think I get what you're asking for. You're more asking, if I'm getting it right, about the physicality and reality of a place in geography, like your town, your house, your city, the ground under you. And then as you expand, and you can obviously go any direction from your house, north, south, east, and west, then you're seeing more things you can validate. And then eventually, if you go far enough, get on a boat, cross an ocean, hit another continent, make a map of that. So, here's the reality of our Earth. Is that what you're asking for?
Yeah, just because it is physical. Or that can be debated, but it's pretty physical what we're in. So yeah, that land over there, and just how you'd map the land, really. Just the outline or whatever.
I get it, but that's what I'm driving at. The powers that should not be, if they exist at all, have figured out that particular map and model is a useful tool to control people, because you as an individual can't experience all of it at once. That's not a possibility. So for the sake of argument, let's say I presented you as a wannabe cartographer with a map of the world and how it's all laid out, and it happened to match every one of your flights and all the things that you challenged it to achieve. Let's say it achieved them. Would you then follow my map and model of the world because it matches your flights and other things that you decide that it must match in order for that to represent the world you're in? Does that then make the map I present you represent the world you're in? Will you follow me and my glory because I've presented you with this map? Do you see where I'm going? Well, I could be the next man to rule the world with my map and model of the world and how it should be and how we should behave, with all different maps and models, because I'm right about the world layout. Well, is there any surprise at all that there's thousands of them? Because many people want to control many other minds with their maps and models.
Yeah, I've seen that thing where they made Africa smaller and they put continents in other positions, and you're right. Yeah, you someone presents you with a map, you can't validate it. You can't personally validate that map.
But what we do have is a cluster screw of confusing rearrangements and projections of what is claimed to be a sphere projected onto a flat surface. So the scrambled eggs in terms of what we have currently is never going to be unscrambled. And all you're left with based on that, unless the entire slate was somehow wiped clean, I don't know how that would happen, you're left with what's next? What's the next step? We'll follow another man with his model? Just reifying models over and over again.
Yeah, I know. I just like in my lifetime to, I don't know, maybe, I don't know how you do that or figure it out or come to some, I guess it's a tough one. Just like space, like you just got to trust other people's words.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable and natural yearning to have. And I think that's another reason why it's probably been exploited. What does it all look like? How does Earth seem from the heavens? Back in the day, if that was the perception and the worldview prior to heliocentrism. What would it be like to be sat on the cloud as a god reified, incarnate, or anthropomorphized, if that's the correct terminology, looking down on all of it? How would it look? Well, that's natural to want that. and it may or may not be achievable. But once I've seen it with my eyes and then scribbled it down on paper, does that mean that that scrap of paper from my visual representation of what it actually is makes it what it is? Will you follow me if I give it you?
Yeah, I get
Well,
you.
your show exists because reality goes against the illogical arguments and points that the globetards have made about our nature of this earth. So your show exists because it doesn't match reality. So if they've lied about space and everything about space and distance to the sun and all the stuff that we talk about here, the housekeeping questions, then what about the actual nature of the plane we live on and lands that might be there that they don't want us to know, or because we don't have the resources to go anywhere anytime free without some government saying you can't pass this point.
But this is where it's the them and the we that we're discussing. So when I say the nature of my reality, it's what I perceive, and there are certain aspects of that that we in discussion can all agree upon. And there are elements that are claimed by they that we can defeat with logic and reason and evidence. Well, that still, for me as an individual, is only me and my reality. When it gets expanded beyond that, it's me offering a next man what he wants to experience the world as a whole without actually experiencing it. So when I describe it in analogy as me sat on the clouds as a anthropomorphized god looking down on all of it, scribbling it down to come back down to the ground and say, here you go, this is what it all looks like. Well, that implies from there on in that you've got to take my vision, which is something that's not possible. We're all only capable of our own individualistic experience. Now that appreciation, that disconnect between the individual and the they that may or may not be stopping me from experiencing whatever I can experience in the time I have allotted to me, which is something totally different as far as I'm concerned and now appreciate. That's where I try and hopefully educate my audience. That's one of the actual motivations I have. Try and get across the fact that for me now, the sky has a lot of wonder, but that's a very individualistic thing. And I may or may not in my lifetime look into finding out what the sky is. Does it mean that next man can come and demand that I give him a model? Well, what is the last guy? The can't remember his name now, but well, you tell me, what is the sky? If you're saying we must have containment for gas, what is the sky? And I go, well, I don't know. I'm not embarrassed to say so. And that's part of the joy and wonderment of not knowing and not taking on board the lies and models of other men. But should I figure it out and give it to you? Does that mean that you then know what it is if I say I've figured it out? That's a useful thing to exploit. And I might be right. I might not be lying. But does that mean that what I've experienced I can then give to you? That's not possible. I can disseminate it through words, many of which have been hijacked with the magic of the priesthood that wants to lie to you. So it's quite difficult. In 1984, when he's describing the part where he's going to remove certain words, so certain conversations can't even take place anymore, it's a bit like that in reality. The people who control the vernacular and the language are going to control the way information is presented. Some of the words I've used to describe not knowing have undoubtedly implied certain things I didn't intend them to, just by using the words at my disposal. But my experience is my own, and I can't give that to anybody else. And the whole idea of this maps and models being used to control something is because of the yearning the guy who's asked me this question has got. Well, come on, what is it? And if they're not going to tell me, maybe I should set their door on fire and tell them, demand the truth. Well, hold on. What, demand they give you their model? Well, you're not free of the change yet then.
All right, let me give you an example then. Just have one part of what you said. We have multiple high altitude balloons going up with 4K GoPro cameras without the wide angle lens. And we get to see, even though it's someone else's balloon and someone else's camera, we get to see what it recorded. We don't see a sphere. We just see a plane. And it just keeps going as far as the camera is able to capture the image. Now, that goes directly opposite of how their model of this Earth should be. It should be spherical, should be dropping away from you from that height, etc. So on that one caveat, we have gone at least that high vicariously through someone else's experiment, and we all could see what the camera captured. You follow where I'm going with this?
Maybe. Carry on.
All right. So, not knowing anything else about the sky, not knowing anything else about the container, not knowing anything else, just that alone tells us that what we've been told doesn't match what we're seeing now.
I see. Yes, based on evidence, we can say what it's not.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's why your channel exists.
Yeah, but if you flip that on its head for a minute, so you're saying, well, that's why this show exists. Great. The further you go into this show, then, by that standard, the more ignorant you become.
More honest, I would say.
So it's perception based. So if you have the perception of knowledge because you understand the Earth as a sphere, because the rhetoric and the CGI and the lies, you still have a perception of an understanding and knowledge, regardless of if it's correct or not. Your world, your personal experience is what you experience. And that person's grounding is in understanding and knowledge as far as they are concerned. So therefore, you come here and you realise because of your declaration that we can show that it isn't what they formerly understood to be the case. Where are they left as a result? When I say this in debate, I say, I'll just pull down my pants and take a big steaming dump on your religion and walk off laughing. Yeah, walk off laughing, leaving you in the same boat as me. Ignorant of what the sky is now. I don't know, and everyone laughs. Appeal to ignorance, you don't know. No, I don't. Yeah, that's where it left. The more you go on and learn in this regard, the more you realise, God, I don't know anything really. There's hardly anything I actually know. You're more stupid, you feel.
Yeah, see, now, I wouldn't say it that way because the way you say it doesn't resemble how I see it. The way I see it is if I'm not claiming anything, if I'm not saying the sky's this or the sky's that, then I don't feel any ignorance, can match because I'm not making a claim. But if I say, here's evidence, and I'm presenting it to you, but after you see the evidence, you want to remain ignorant because you don't want to address the evidence, challenge it, make sure it's real. That's willful ignorance. Now, if I have ignorance of a subject, it's perhaps I haven't taken the time to study it. Or maybe I find out there's no way of knowing it because it's too far to study. It's not within my reach.
There's a quote from a philosopher that I'm racking my brains to remember in terms of the further you go in terms of your knowledge and understanding, the more you realise how little you actually know.
Well, the scripture is full of that, telling us how we don't know nothing. So I agree with that. I'm just trying to have a communication with you about an honest back and forth talk on subjects that seems impossible with a globetrot because they're defending always a model. Whereas honest people are saying, you know what, I don't know.
Yeah, and there's a lot to be said for the individuals like the guy earlier, Grave Dodger and Ranty, and all of the other people who are out there gathering up the information and trying to figure it out and trying to gather up the data so you can analyze it and ponder over it and hopefully come to some vague conclusion that might enable further discovery. But up until this point, having the Truman Show example, the teacher pulls down the roller blind with all the maps written out and goes, it's all been discovered already. Well, most subjects are a bit like that. And, it's just something irreplaceably special about going out and going, well, let's figure out what the hell it is then, on the basis that I do not know.
Yeah, I think
100%. Sorry.
I think that's the formula. Being a Christian and knowing the scriptures, that's the formula God is using to get a man and woman to look up and ask, why? Who are you? reveal yourself to me. And when the man and woman does that, God will answer that prayer. But until the man and woman does that, he's in wonderment as to what is this place and who made it and where does it start. And so those questions develop as a child, hopefully in all children, and hopefully they never put the flame of that question out of their life so that they can look up and ask.
Well, there's certainly more of those sorts of conversations since the COVID lockdown. So I typically sit down and watch Paula or a similar Christian show on a Sunday, mainly out of habit, Christian upbringing, just familiarity. And my wife sat with me in the kitchen and was like, I didn't know you watch Christian shows. And I was like, yeah, I do every Sunday. Hadn't you noticed? She's like, no. And then it launched into a conversation about God. And I just had a better understanding. Maybe this is what the guy meant earlier with the super chat. I had a better understanding to explain why there's a God to my wife. Now, prior to the debate, and John and Paula, I couldn't have done that. I couldn't have gone through and explained what the ontological primitives were. I couldn't have explained how the first law, basically, you can't get around it in terms of having anything other than a creator to have anything that we've got here. Now, that was admittedly not as concise as I gave it to my wife when I was a lot more, focused on, or not even focused, just relaxed, because I'm just sat watching a live stream from Bible Literalist. Shout out to Paula. But those sorts of conversations have been developed and quickly progressed to a nodding and a nice warm smile rather than a row as a result of this show. So that is a better understanding about some things that were definitely, I was far from being a God-believing person prior to the debates. Now it's like, how am I supposed to deny this? I can't deny it without feeling like I'm lying to myself.
Yeah, I mean that's a good tight example of what happens when you figure out certain natural laws and how, okay, this is so obvious. Another one is, just as a kid, when I was growing up, it was like, man, life is so great. And then, enjoying grandparents that were alive at the time and Sunday cookouts and camping trips and, just the joy of, being a kid and playing ball and getting muddy and playing with trucks and then realizing I'm at a funeral and somebody died that was close to me. And this, well, why do people die? And where are they now? See, this is, there's so many ways to look up and ask God, what is the purpose for my life and why am I here? And I think that I agree with you at the basis at the beginning of this was about, we get to a place where we're just ignorant. We don't know, but then does that mean we have to stay that way? Or can we look up and just ask and will God answer? And I say yes, as a Christian, he will.
Hey everybody, hey Nathan.
Hello Brian, hello Quantum Eraser. You both seem to join at a similar time these days.
Hey, how was your debate yesterday?
Hey, you talking to me, Tent?
Yeah.
Oh, with Fight the Flat Out. Jesus,
Yeah.
that was an absolute mess because it wasn't a debate. He sent me a message saying he challenged me to a debate, and I said there was an opening in Jose's on Thursday because I put a thing out on Thursday. I went down to Jose. I just get the backstory. I went down to Jose's yesterday, and I said I'm looking for someone to debate on Thursday about any part of the subject. Because I'd asked a lot of people privately, including, I won't name names, but this name I will name, including Professor Dave, non-Professor Dave, and he avoided a debate with me. But I asked I got a lot of our people over the weekend and that privately. None of them were interested in having it. So I put a thing out in Jose's. So I got a thing last night on one of my videos. I challenged you to a debate from Fight the Flat Out. And I go, yeah, okay, are you available then for Thursdays on Jose's? Because I thought it was kind of strange. I said he wouldn't normally go out to Jose's. But he said, no, I need it tonight. Like, it'll have to happen tonight on my channel or something like that. And I went, look, okay, I'll see if I can wrangle it. So I had moved a few things around and I went on to his channel. And what it basically is he has a situation where he brings on a flat earther. Him and Team Skeptic are there. When he's under pressure, Team Skeptic comes in to save his bacon and he has a mute button that he's not shy about using. The amount of nonsense he went on with, I don't think it's an enjoyable. It was basically an argument for 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? Or more, 2.5 hours. it's just the nonsense he goes on with, and his proofs, when things he was trying to use as proofs, and he was trying to avoid he basically avoided a lot of dark corners as much as he could, but he still came out with a heap of rubbish. I won't even with all the things he said at the moment, but he called the scientific method a guideline. That's what like.
That's cute.
I told you.
This is it.
That's
Like,
what I was saying
yeah,
earlier.
so.
Hold on, Brian. You're gonna have to wait for a couple of reactions to that. I mean, he's kind of right in a way. It's a guideline for empiricism. If you want to be empiricism, you follow it. If you want to be empirical, rather.
I'm just curious, did he figure out if miles per hour is tangential speed or angular velocity?
We didn't
Curious
have
if you
that.
figured that out yet.
Okay, hold on.
We didn't have that conversation.
Do you want to go through some of it? Because so far you've just moaned about the formatting of his show without any disrespect to you, Brian.
Yeah.
So go on. What were some of the points that were raised? How were they debated? Did they have any conclusions? Did you lose any points? Did you win any points? Did he win any? Lose any? Go ahead.
Anyway, but the main thing that he tried to latch onto was he started off having a thing about how he has all these geodetic surveyors information or data from the geodetic surveyors, supposedly hundreds of them, that have measured the curvature of the Earth. And when he first started out with something else, I can't remember how it started, but it was heading towards an horizon and radius argument. And he was messing around and dodging around it. And I just said, right, are we talking about the radius here? Is this because I had already at the start of the thing got him to say yes, he does believe in it and make reference to a globe model. And I got him to say that it does have mathematical constraints, a certain size radius and a certain size circumference. And I got him to say the size of the radius. So then he started a while later. Something happens. I can't remember how it worked out, but he started kind of tiptoeing around this radius thing, but he's trying to do it to try and avoid the black swan type issue. So I said, no, let's talk about the radius. Let's talk about where it supposedly came from, which is Alberuni and whatever. But he started going into these geodetic surveyors thing, where he had all these surveyors. But I had already had a thing with him before this about surveyors, where I made it clear to him that according to the information I can find out on the internet, that planar surveyors work within 250 square kilometers, and geodetic surveyors work outside 250 square kilometers. So my point to him was, geodetic surveyors don't take in angular size change, they don't take in photographic occultation, and they don't take in the diffraction limit. They just call everything Earth curve because they automatically assume the Earth is curved. And I said they could not see 250 square kilometers because I didn't even get to why they couldn't see it, but I just said because he kept on stopping that point. But I'm getting feedback there from someone. But he basically ignored to go with that because I knew stuff about geodetic surveying that he couldn't disprove. And he came out with Jesse Kozłowski says this and that, and I said Jesse Kozłowski admitted to me after 4 days that he doesn't doesn't take in angular size change into his final calculations. I said at all, right? He admitted that to me, and he then tried to come up with this thing about how surveyors have measured. He has all this information that surveyors have measured the curve. He wouldn't go near the black swan, and I said, are they geodetic or are they planar? And he wouldn't give me an answer. And then things just went into an absolute debacle because I wasn't putting up with him not giving me an answer. Then I had to deal with Team Skeptic coming in, and it was a lot of insults and nonsense. But to get down to the brass tacks, he said so many stupid things. I hadn't got to the point where I had him. I was asking him, what are the constituent parts of an experiment? Right? What's step 1 and step 2? Step 1 is see something. Step 2 is ask a question or something like that. And he only knew that much because I had already talked about it.
The science buddies.
I taught him Googling.
Science
buddies.
I taught him
Googling. Sorry?
That's the science buddies answer. If you type in scientific method into Google, the top result is from something called Science Buddies, and it's ask a question.
Yeah, that's what I caught him Googling, and I said it to him. I said, "You're Googling." I caught him Googling. You know what was the biggest thing for him in the whole lot? He tried to say do you know all the methods that geodetic surveyors use then? And I said, I know what they don't use. I said, and that's the important part. I said, I know they don't take angular size change and all these other things into account. And I said, I know some of what they do, and I know they can't see for 250 square kilometers in a 360-degree view. So they're going to have to come up with some other way, because that's only the limit. They work outside 250 square kilometers. Only they work outside that, according to what information off a few sites online. And what I actually killed them with was, remember that video, the little thing I used with the stills of the camera moving back from the object that was higher than its center frame and it dropping below its center frame. That absolutely drove him and his audience and Team Skeptic up the wall. And I was called a con man and everything and anything. And I was they started to claim my camera lens was tilted up and all this other nonsense. And so I I said, look, you can do all this. I said, I don't know why you're getting all this. You can do all this. It's just a natural effect of perspective due to angular size change. And they did their best to wash it away. And now he's in a position where he's at the claim and he's going to do it. And he has a special camera with special leveling. Cameras have levels on them, levels, and he's going to be able to level his camera and he's going to do it and show that doesn't happen. I said, he tried to say that I was insinuating that parallel lines cross by what I showed him. I said, he tried to
sorry to interrupt, Brian. I just want to give a brief summary for the audience's benefit. What we're describing is in physical terms. So if you're standing maybe 50 meters away from a high-rise block of buildings, and that block of buildings, you've got to literally lift your head slightly to see the top of the building. As that building gets further and further and further away from you, the top of the building will drop towards the horizon. It's becoming smaller in angular size. Now, Brian has a demonstration where he has, I don't know what the object is, it's not relevant, but an object that's close to the camera, which has been leveled on a level surface, and as he moves that item away from the camera, the top of the item drops towards the horizon in that shot, or the end of the table. Because it's perspective, it's just angular size being taken into consideration. Whereas if you go to a Jesse Kozlowski video, he'll show you him with a lantern at either side of a lake, and he'll say, well, this lantern at the other side has dropped. Well, no, it's dropped towards the horizon because it's reduced in angular size because it's very far away. It's got smaller. But they don't take that into account. They'll call that an earth curve drop. Carry on, Brian.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, no. He just had serious problems with that. He then, right after he had a load of problems with that, him and your man Team Skeptic, he then moved back to, I said, okay, you won't accept that. You do it yourself. It'll take 10 minutes and that. I just said to all the audience and Team Skeptic, you all do that. Only take a few minutes. You can do it at home with your phone. And so he's supposed to do this. So the next part was we went back to talking about the geodetic surveyors. I said, let's bring it back to these geodetic surveyors that supposedly measure curvature. And I could not get him out. I said, right, they were at different. He said they're at different elevations. I said, we're at a lot of high elevations. Well, there was one elevation where at 4 foot. I said, yeah, but where are they at high elevations? Well, yeah, a lot of high elevations. Yeah. So what were they looking at from a high elevation? At a horizontal. A horizontal. Is that the horizon by any chance? And I kept on having to ask him this question, and he wouldn't answer. Eventually, he said, "No, it's not the horizon." So, what are they looking at then? What is the horizontal they're looking at? What is their tangent line to? And he just said, "It's just a horizontal." Whatever. It was just really vague. He wouldn't give me anything on it.
Hold on a second, Brian. Sorry, Bev, are you there? You've had this discussion with Fight the Flat Earth, haven't you?
Yeah.
Do you want to pipe up here? Because if you didn't want to give Brian an answer, perhaps he gave you one.
Oh. No, it's just straight lines bend. I mean, the proper fundy Fight the Flat Earth, he will literally say anything. I'd like to say to Brian while we're here that the big point that he should be making here is that Fight the Flat Earth just blatantly said that Brian said that parallel lines would cross. Like, he literally said that Brian said that. And Brian went, no, I didn't. Yes, you did. It was ridiculous. That was the worst show I've ever seen of blatant dishonesty ever, Brian. I don't know how you managed to put through with it. Well done, mate. You did really well last night.
Thanks, Bev. It was hard going, especially with the two of them there. It was difficult. That's why it's not a good. It's not terrible to listen to, but I mean, you'd have to turn your microphone down or your headphones down because there was a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
He wouldn't give me answers on what they were looking at. So then I said to him, I said, did they extract their elevation above sea level? I said, a lot of these observations taken from a high elevation looking across the sea? And he said, yeah. I said, did they extract their elevation from sea level in their final calculations? Why would they do that? I said, because, you know what I mean? They're just using an angle down to the sea, I said. I mean, they just. If you're in, I said to him, if you're in an airplane 6 miles above the ocean, I said the horizon might appear to be at your eye level, but there will be a dip down to it. I said no matter how far out it goes, because you're 6 miles above the ocean, there's going to be a dip down to the. It's like if you use the right equipment, you will be able to find a dip. I said, but that's a natural thing. If you're 6 miles above, whatever height you are above the ocean, you're above that line, no matter how far it stretches out. He said that couldn't happen on a flat Earth. On a flat Earth, you'd be able to see forever. All this kind of nonsense. And I didn't even get a chance. I was trying to get in to say, you tell me there wouldn't be an atmosphere. You tell me that we wouldn't have a limit to our sight, and you're telling me that we wouldn't have refraction on a flat Earth. But I didn't even get that chance because I don't know what happened then. He just wouldn't accept a lot of things. And Bev, I don't listen to his show, so I have to take it on your word that it was extremely more even than normal, extremely dishonest show.
Well, Brian, according to Andrew Thomas Young, all his refraction studies were done over a plane, and then if you want to convert it, you go to a globe model.
Oh, he actually claimed last night he's been on the phone again with Andrew Thomas Young, the best buddies now. The different types of lumen, remember that, Brian? He said that they Fight the Flat Earth doesn't use the 5 different types of refraction because he's been talking to Andrew Thomas Young and he has too many different types of refraction, so he doesn't bother with that anymore.
Go on, sorry, Les, go on, sorry.
No, go on, I've finished, yeah.
No, actually, that reminds me, just what you said there. I forgot about that. There's a load in it I'm after forgetting. But I said, he's brought up refraction. I said, what are the types of refraction? He actually didn't know. He didn't know, or he wouldn't say one or the other. He said at one point at the start, he said, oh, there's hundreds or thousands of types of refraction. I said, really? What? Name them out then. And he wouldn't. He wouldn't keep quiet. Do you know what I mean? Name out what they are. Like, you know what I mean? It's like the few times I did get him cornered.
Well,
he was in trouble.
Since the Black Swan, we've had different types of refraction pop up, right? We've got bendy crane refraction. We've got strong aggressive refraction with a coefficient of 2. What else? I mean, just anything that they need to say just to make their crap work.
Yeah,
it's pathetic.
Fight the Flat Earth has been talking to Andrew Thomas Young. That's what he said. That he stated that last night. So
he's going to go down this route again by searching these people out because the first time with George Bush, it didn't work out so well for him. So
I've been reading.
Told you they're doing the higher science in their minds.
Okay, he may
tried to look for Andrew Thomas Young, and I got Andrew Thomas Huang, a Chinese artist.
He's the guy we've been talking about for months on end that refers to refraction, tells you that you've got to go and make geometric considerations, talks about refraction on a flat surface, but obviously it all really takes place on a globe anyway. Well, that's Andrew Thomas Young.
Yeah, let me read it. I got it right here. Calculating atmospheric refraction. This is copyright 2002, 2012, 2020, Andrew T. Young. All the discussion above, and this deals with refraction that he's referencing, all the discussion above deals with plane surfaces, but the Earth isn't flat. To deal with refraction in a curved atmosphere, we have to introduce some geometrical considerations, which have been put on a separate page. Likewise, the atmosphere doesn't contain separate layers of different refractive index. The ray bending produced by continuous distribution of density is discussed on another page. And the last one, if you're not interested in the details of the calculation, but still want to know more about the refraction of astronomical objects, okay, so no longer the Earth, by the atmosphere. See page on astronomical refraction. But can it be any clearer that in his writing, Andrew Thomas Young, his studies and discussion deals with refraction on a plane surface. But because the Earth isn't flat, we have to do geometrical considerations. But go to this page if you want to see it work there.
Yeah, I just looked up Andrew Thomas Young, and I'm pretty sure Fight the Flat Earth is a liar because, like, Andrew Thomas Young roughly died 190 years ago.
No, that's a different Andrew Thomas Young.
That's probably a different guy. I mean, feel free to make a video about this. You know, I mean, I'll check with Sleeping Warrior in regards to Foucault and things of that nature before you do. Don't have to.
Isn't this the one?
Don't have too many beers and make a video about this guy.
San Diego State University was not around that back then. I don't think.
It's not the right one. I'm having trouble trying to find him.
I'll post his entire internet library on Masterbee for you right now, okay?
Thanks, Ed.
Is this the guy?
Sorry, has this triggered any fundies in Discord?
Yeah, what's up,
any
Chike?
fundies.
Chikey? Chicky?
Chocolate, is this the guy?
I don't know what his face looks like. I know him. His name is Andrew Thomas Young.
Here's
can't
another
tell you
one.
his face.
From the University of Strathclyde.
No, this is San Diego
You got to
State
look on the higher
University.
science.
Arwen, I posted the link to the resource on Masterbee for you.
Yeah, I am not in Masterbee.
Well, obviously. But it's there for you.
Thanks.
All right.
Anyway.
You want to hear it? Oh, yeah, oh my God.
No, I just can't. I try to look him out. I can't find him. This mysterious Andrew Thomas Young. Everybody's talking about.
Just hit Andrew Thomas Young, San Diego State University. See what you get.
Oh, right. San Diego State.
So, Brian, wrap up your show. What happened at the end?
Oh, two other things that he said. He said a load of stuff more than this, but one of the things he said was about a sextant. He brought up this diagram, and we're talking about the sextant. I said the sextant. I said if you're in a boat, I said that's 10 foot, and your sextant height is 10 foot above the water level. That means you're 10 foot above the horizon. I said so you have to extract your sextant because this is about the whole thing of taking a dip angle nonsense, right? I said you have to extract your height because he wouldn't just to clear it up. He wouldn't admit that it was the horizon. He kept saying, eventually he said it wasn't the horizon, that they were taking an angle to. So I couldn't use the horizon in the argument. I said, you have to extract your height above sea level, or whatever, above the horizon to use it, I said. And he said, have you ever used a sextant? I said, no. He said, well, what would you know about it? I said, I've learned a bit about it, and I learned that much. I said, you're saying that's wrong. And he tried his best to basically make it appear like it was wrong. But he didn't say it was wrong. He wouldn't admit it. He started moving away from the subject then. So there's another thing he was totally dishonest about. Well, he said a sextant is for measuring the angle between the horizon and a celestial body. I said, yeah, that's what it is used for. But you have to take your elevation above the water, I said, into account in your final calculation. And he wouldn't admit that. He tried to make it look like I never used one, so I wouldn't know what I'm talking about. But his answer to the black swan, or his answer, sorry, not to the black swan, but how they have a radius, how they have a radius value. I said, because he gave me this at the very end of the thing. I said, how could you have a radius value when you can't see the geometric horizon? He said, because we know the coefficient of refraction. And that was the end of the show. He actually, straight after, I think very soon, because I was leaving anyway, he actually dropped me from the call because I wasn't listening. He tried to go on to some other nonsense, which is kind of a gotcha. He gives the flat earthers, and I wasn't having it.
Well, he incriminated himself the minute he said sextant doesn't use the horizon. I'm looking at one of the more expensive sextants here. It's $1,895. Guess what the name is? Cassins and Plath Horizon Ultra Sextant. Any research on how sextant is used and where you aim it and what you do shows that you have to have it at 0, which is the horizon.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
guy's an idiot.
But he didn't say you didn't have. He just wouldn't admit that you have to have. He tried to make it look like I didn't know what I was talking about. He tried to make it seem like the point I was making was wrong, but it wasn't. He just didn't want to admit it was right. But he tried to make it seem it was wrong by me saying, because I was just being honest, I didn't use a sextant. He said, have you ever used a sextant? I said, no, because he was in the Navy or something, so he possibly used one. But, you know, this is what you're dealing with. That's what I've said there is probably only the tip of the iceberg. The amount of stuff he came out with was absolutely ridiculous.
I can remember his quote. He said a sextant. He said either it doesn't work on a plane or it only works on a globe. He made that statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can remember the stupid things he says.
Davis has this little tool for navigators. It's called the artificial horizon. And it's used by sailors when the conditions have fog and it obscures the natural horizon. So just look up Davis, D-A-V-I-S, artificial horizon, and see how that works.
Yep,
This guy's
have a look
an
at
idiot.
Would that be the geometric horizon?
No, it's just gonna be a laser level that gives you a horizontal, right?
Yeah,
sorry, Nathan, we didn't hear you.
I think they have a similar thing to stop them getting seasick below deck. They have this like laser, and it just gives you a level. So if you've got no windows, obviously you can't orientate yourself to the horizon because you can't see it. So you can't reference anything. But if you've got a little light that's essentially just a glorified gyroscopic level that's projecting out a light that gives you a line, you can then reference what is actually giving you up for your own senses to match with. You know, obviously your ears know what it is, but you don't. So you have to look out and reference it. That's what stops you getting seasick. If you can't see what the horizon, what position you're actually in, and your ears are all sloshing around, you know, you can't find your balance, and then you're sick. So that's something that combats that. It's just a gyroscopic laser level, basically.
Yeah, and when he said to you, do you own a sextant and have you used one? That's, you don't have to own one. I still don't own one yet, but I watched plenty of navigators show how one is used and watch how they go to the almanacs and figure out everything. Just right here in Britannica, right off the top, it says sextant, instrument for determining the angle. Now get this, determining the angle between the horizon and the celestial body, such as the sun, the moon, or a star, used in celestial navigation to determine latitude and longitude. Now, what's it used for? Determining the angle between a perpendicular, the horizon, and the sun above you if it's 12 noon. Thank you very much.
How does that work if the horizon is always refracted?
Just like Quantum Eraser
Over.
says. Just like Quantum Eraser says, the sextant destroys them.
He actually, one of the funny things that happened at the very start of it, because I think a lot of people won't even get past too much at the start because it goes sideways very early, is that he started talking about level. Would I agree that level was to the center of the earth? And I said, no, I wouldn't. Right? And I said, I tell you what, let's get a definition of level. And I just typed in level definition into Google. And the very first one, just Google's dictionary, the very first one that came up, I just read that out. And he went, hang on now, and he went to this one from Merriam-Webster, down to the adjective in Merriam-Webster that said that level was to do with the center of a curved earth or some nonsense like that. I can't remember the words exactly used, but it was one of the definitions in there. And he went to this exact one that he had ready to go. Somewhere probably had it saved on his computer, and I just randomly just picked the first one, right? And he started claiming then to his audience that I was cherry picking. It's like I thought it's just a random one. You got a particular one sentence from a particular. That I mean, I don't. If anyone
Sounds like projection.
yeah, it's like I just get any random one. I just got any random one, and then he started arguing. So I went, so let's get another then. He said, oh, good, I have 43, great, and I got another random one, and that didn't support him either. You know, but he didn't come up with any other ones. He just came up with that one from Merriam-Webster. Then he started having a problem with me about noun and adjective. Do you know what an adjective and a noun is? I said, what? I said, give me an example then of when you use a noun and when you use an adjective. You have to use the adjective because that describes all this nonsense. It's a definition, like, you know. And then the adjective from Google went against them as well. I said, well, I'll read out the adjective then, you know. You know, but I find it's hard to listen to. It's a comedy show, really.
Actually, while I'm here with all of these people and everybody, you know, the noun and the adjective, can we get this down? Because, I mean, I've had this for over a year of them saying this, right? A noun would be a doing word, right? That be correct?
No.
What
You always
what's
go to
a
the
noun then?
adjective. You go to the adjective with
No,
level.
but what is a noun?
Not that a person, place, or thing. So a flat, like where you live.
This is important.
You don't use a noun.
Stop,
We're talking
stop.
about an adjective.
Sorry.
So their definition of Merriam-Webster, if you scroll down a little bit further, flat has no curves. And then right above it, it says flat follows the curve of the earth. So that's a contradiction. So you toss Merriam-Webster it fuck out. Follow? And
Correct.
You don't know
Spot
what
on.
cherry picking is, you fat slob. Have them define cherry picking next. We're going to go over that today. Cherry picking. I'm going to embarrass these idiots.
Let's plug that. Yesterday, so for those of you watching this on Wednesday on Nathan Oakley channel, Quantum Eraser did a show yesterday. I spent a fairly prolonged period going through the presentation. Excellent presentation, by the way, Quantum Eraser. You asked me on Skype. Brilliant. Can't wait to do it. It's past tense for those of you watching. It's future tense for us making this. But yeah, so yeah, we will definitely get into all of that. I do want to cover this just briefly though, so I want to read this from Psychology Today. It's what is projection? Projection is the process of displacing one's feelings onto another person, animal, or object. The term is most commonly used to describe defensive projection, attributing one's own unacceptable urges to another. The concept emerged from Sigmund Freud's work in the 1890s. Unconscious discomfort can lead to people to attribute difficult feelings or impulses to someone else to avoid confronting them. Projection allows the difficult trait to be addressed without the individual fully recognizing it in themselves. From Psychology Today.
I don't think that could be any more fitting.
He's supposed to be debating me on Thursday as well. On hoses. That's what he says. I don't know if that'll happen.
I like the preamble you said he gave. So, will you accept that Plum is to the centre of the earth, or however he phrased it, which is paraphrased as, will you beg the question of a sphere earth by way of a double-speak contradiction?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I love it. They all do this now. Do you accept? Do you have a problem with? Do you agree with? That's what they're going on now.
I've noticed that too. I've noticed that a lot too. Yeah.
Yeah. Will you accept our begging the question presupposition? Rumpus gets it in the fastest possible spoken words he can use right at the beginning, and then moves on to whatever question he has based on that presupposition that he will force you to accept. And if you in any way challenge it or question it at that early stage, he'll make a declaration of non-understanding. You don't understand, blah, 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 my presupposition that I've just inserted here, hopefully under the radar.
Something Craig does at the start of his show is very sneaky. He asks you, the first thing he asks you, because he's like the host, is, so why do you believe in a flat earth? Right? Now, that's instantly putting you on the back foot if you're a flat earther. It's instantly making you try to explain yourself. It's like, we're not here. Like, I said to him, I said, I'm not answering that. I said, that's trying to put me on the back foot. I said, we didn't define terms for this debate. I said, yes. And he went, oh, okay, I understand, yeah. And he moved away from it. But he was basically like it has nothing to do with the argument why somebody believes the earth is flat. It has nothing to do with the debate.
He's an Elmer Fudd sophist. Elmer Fudd sophist. Him and Team Septic, that friggin' weird trans. What the hell is he anyway? They are Elmer Fudd sophists. They don't know shit. They're just like all the rest of them. They're just like Hillbilly Blue Balls, the redneck retard that showed yesterday. Was it yesterday, Nathan? Wait till you see this thrashing of Hillbilly Blue Balls. They're basically all the same person.
Yeah,
that's what they are.
They're clones.
Sophist might not be a word that's familiar to most people. Can you explain what a sophist or sophist is, please? Quantum Eraser, if you don't mind.
A sophist. Elmer Fudd sophistry. Do I need to explain sophistry?
Yes, please.
Just rhetoric. I don't know the official definition. Let's go find it. Let's be precise.
It changed.
Use of fallacious arguments, especially with the intention of deceiving.
Okay.
That's all of them.
Used to be people who got taught by like private tutors, but obviously it's changed because the people could afford that sort of thing.
See, now a sophist is a paid teacher of philosophy and rhetoric.
So the reason I bring it up is because that's what we were in the early days accused of being. So it was all flipped on its head, and the globe religious believers claimed that the, if you want, philosophical naturalists were saying their religion or stating their religious viewpoint as sophist rhetoric. So we were called sophists, and it was claimed that we were disseminating religious teachings and rhetoric. Just a way of inverting things. It's the same. It's kind of, there's loads of them, but another example, more recent example, would be with Earth curve. So Earth curve is the geometric horizon. It's the edge that obscures things in the distance, and how much that obstruction is qualified is based on how much the edge has got in the way of something in the distance that you can't see the bottom of. It's given you in feet and inches in their Earth curve calculator. So what we're talking about when we're talking about the Earth curve calculator and the qualification at ground level that Earth's a sphere, that you can prove for yourself with this calculation, is how much the edge is blocking things in the distance. Oh, what a coincidence. Perfect timing. It's on screen. So what we've got is this marked with an X horizon is the point where the edge of the sphere obscures things. And then you've got this hidden value given you in the maths in feet and inches. So the edge is what they use to claim Earth's a sphere. Edge, otherwise known as geometric horizon, otherwise known as Earth curve. Now that edge is something we, flat earthers, are challenged to prove on a model that we do not reify. Now that model varies depending on how deep you are into what you could call the sophistry, the actual sophistry of flat Earth, because there is some. Just won't get into it in detail here. But depending on which model you decide to reify as a flat earther, depending on how new you are, or whether or not you found your way here, you'll be asked to prove the edge of a pizza model flying up through a sky vacuum, potentially, if you've used the most common, the Flat Earth Society model, which is like a pizza pie with water flowing over the edge of it. And they'll say to you, as a flat earther newbie, well, where's the edge? And it's because it's an inversion of what they have as their weakest part of their model. What are we calling a black swan argument? What is a black swan? Well, it's the assertion that we always have a geometric sphere edge for a horizon. The horizon is their globe edge. So that's why it's inverted onto us. And it's a similar principle, but obviously we're describing a much older one prior to the black swan. But yeah, that's just another example of how they invert these things onto us and ask us to prove how we've got religious rhetoric Well, no, we're describing the nature of reality without superimposing an R value into a model and ignoring all other aspects of reality. It's only ever Earth curve edge. It's only ever that marked with an X edge blocking things in the distance. No other cause. But what's that? We've got religious rhetoric. We're sophists. When we say, hang on a second, what about the atmosphere getting in the way? Oh, no, we've got refraction in there. 7/6 R. The R value giving you a geometric sphere edge. But where's your edge? And so it goes on. Everything's inverted onto us, like their projections of their own failings in their model need to be justified by us. Likewise with the other guy the other day. So it's, you haven't got a vacuum for a sky. Your model says it's so. Where's your sky vacuum if we need containment? What happens? Well, where's your container? Where's the dome? So as a flat earther newbie, you're challenged to show where the dome is. Why is that? Why would it be so important for you to be challenged as a newbie flat earther to prove what the sky is suddenly? So are you suddenly a sky expert because you found out you've been lied to about living on a sphere and we're not on a model and that's all lies? We don't have an R value to assume. Suddenly you've got to prove what the sky is. Where's the dome? What do you mean where's the dome? I don't know what the sky is. But suddenly you're into grabbing hold of someone else's model to explain what the dome is and why it is and what it's made of. Well, no, that's because one of their weakest arguments is what the sky is. It's a vacuum. But it's a really easy defence to indoctrinate those fundies, globehead-believing idiots, to ask us, who are challenging the nonsense of a sky vacuum, with where's the dome? Because, again, it's an inversion. It's an attack on us for the weakest part of their argument to justify something we haven't made a claim about based on a model we've been forced to have and concepts that have been reified through indoctrination in programming, some of it subliminal. You know, the Simpsons sky dome being lowered over Springfield is there as indoctrination and programming for a reason. It's there as part of the flat earth indoctrination and subliminal messaging so that we're all under the impression that the only alternative to a sky vacuum is a dome that we've got to justify when we realise the earth isn't a sphere suddenly. Well, no, they've just got a weak argument for a sky vacuum that's demolished.
I love that question, by the way.
Which question?
Where's the dome and what it's made of? That's one of my favorite ones.
Oh yeah. Well, just because you're fixing for a row. Is that what you're looking for?
No, that's one of my no, not at all. It's one of my favorite questions. It gets into filet mignon.
Ah, yes, absolutely. I can infer it, and in inference is all I'll ever draw. You can't have gas pressure without a container. Well, therefore, by inference, do I therefore say the sky is a container? It must be, because we've got gas pressure. By inference, you can't have gas pressure without a container. But does that mean that I say the sky is a upside-down pudding bowl-shaped sapphire dome? No. I don't know what the sky is. I haven't got a clue. I just know we must have containment.
Yeah, that's all you have to say, really. Just a container. Yeah. They're just being pedantic. It's a container. You don't have to say dome. You could say dome, but it's still a container.
But attack is the best form of defense. If you've got a really glaring violation of natural law in your model, isn't it far better to have anybody who may ever challenge you on it because they're questioning the model on some other area to prove that there's a dome and make the dome be reified into some sort of glass pudding bowl that's upside down?
Yep. Just go with the container. Well, what they have to do now, what they're doing now is, as corporately, is they've been bludgeoned to death for the past 4 or 5 years with the gas laws and the second law of thermodynamics. I mean, even Joe Snuffy and Betty Breadmaker are putting them up against the wall and just beating them with a baseball bat. Now, this is what they're doing corporately. They're trying to establish a difference between atmospheric pressure and gas pressure. That's their last port in the storm, right? I love it. I think it's hilarious, but that's what they're doing. We're going to go over that yesterday.
Well,
is that something recent that they've been doing, or has that been around for a while? Because to me, it feels very recent with that nonsense. Like they're just trying to get away with atmosphere.
I heard it a while ago.
Yeah, pretty.
Go on. Who was it in Discord? Go on.
I said I heard that a while ago, but it's coming back now.
Well, they've just been trained in how to do it in a circular manner indefinitely. So you can constantly juxtapose gas pressure questions with a gas pressure gradient requirement from us. in rebuttal. So when you get to the dirty question, I was going to say you can see this exampled by, I've forgotten his name, but the show has ended up labelled Spaceballs, because what was it? Spaceballs Mega Made Sky Vacuum is the name of the video. But a dude for a good solid hour non-stop just went round and round and round in circles, never addressing the question how you have the gas pressure in the first instance if the sky's a vacuum, by saying how do you have a lesser pressure at 10,000 feet than at 7,000 feet. Constantly round and round in circles. It didn't matter how many times he had that question addressed, how it was detailed that the gas cycles work. It didn't matter that it was explained that he was taught this in 7th grade. It didn't matter. None of it mattered. The question was always responded with how do you have a gas pressure gradient? A delta of the question. Non-stop for an hour.
Sounds like Chicky.
He didn't do such a good job of the obfuscation circle jerk as the other guy.
I like the assertion all of a sudden that now they're asking us why they can go from one pressure to a different pressure, like let's say at the top of a hill, but they didn't drive through a container to get to that different pressure. Like what? Oh my god!
And they think it's a gotcha.
Yeah.
Fucking boneheads. Just keep talking. I like the ideal or the idea of new people coming into this and just sitting back and watching this unfold and listening to these globetards. I really don't have much work to do. I just let you speak. I just let you open up your incoherent pie holes. You do my work for me now. I love it. Keep doing it.
It'll be this way with the Black Swan. I know the countdown timer has got less and less prevalent in the COVID nonsense, but the Black Swan argument will become what we've just described. Mark my words. 18 months, might be 12, might be 8 from now. We will be talking about Betty Breadmaker and Joe Coffey having people up against the wall with the physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve. That will be the case. Betty Breadmaker and Joe Coffey will be having people up against the wall with this when the penny drops. And it is dropping more and more and more. I still see people putting up videos about Black Swan arguments. It's just less now. Shame, but it will, like I say, those ebbs and flows of how information disseminates to the general masses is par for the course. There will be periods where it gets forgotten about because there's something more important and prevalent. But it doesn't mean it's gone away. It just means that's part of the 18-month process for your average Joe who's opposing it to actually understand it, and Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker to understand how to put your average fundy against the wall with it.
Yep.
The point of saying all that is because currently the argument for how you can have gas pressure without a container, Joe Coffey and Betty Breadmaker, as quantum eraser phrases it, do get that now, and I see it all the time on other people's shows, and then people are getting spanked with it, and it's because that was, back in the day, a similar idea. People didn't quite get it at first, because you're so brainwashed and wired to just go, well, yeah, of course, the gas pressure gets less and less and less and less and less and less, and then you're in a vacuum. That makes perfect sense. Until someone comes along and goes, no, it would never develop into a gas pressure if you've got a sky vacuum at 10 to the minus 17 torr. It would equalise, and you'd have 10 to minus 17 torr at sea level. Now, the guy did catch me out with that because they're jumping back and forth between how gas would equalise in a demonstration of entropy versus how we have dynamic systems. So at one stage, he did catch me out, but Quantum Eraser was quick to pick the guy up and go, no, you're correct. It would equalise if the sky was a vacuum. Because I'm flipping between how we can have dynamic systems with pressure gradients and how we don't have a sky vacuum. And he, at one point, did catch me out between the two, caught by Quantum Eraser. Thank you very much indeed. But beyond a gotcha, catching someone out, tripping them up on what they're saying at the time, there is no win to be had with gas pressure without a container. It will and forever be a necessary antecedent to have containment to form pressure, something to press on. It's not going to ever change. So they're all their thrashings and whinings and rumblings and ad homs and laughing when we point out that they're laws of nature they claim in the form of gravity have been violated by a helium balloon not attracted to the mass of the Earth. You know, they can laugh their heads off, but it's not a rebuttal ever. The gas pressure without a containment argument is as watertight as it gets. That's why it's the former number one globe debunker. It just takes a while for everyone else to get why it kills their argument. Why do you think we never, in the last literally 12 months, I believe, if I'm correct, we have not had a single person come on this show and present any evidence of space by a government-backed official or source? Not one. Am I wrong?
See, but how is it that with a limited education, I understood that right away, and you have people that are just will not understand it? How is that possible?
Because it's logically inferred and brainwashed into you that there's a sky vacuum and a rocket can take off from the ground and traverse through the gas that we all breathe, and at some point there's bra-burning gas particles that they whiz past with their rocket. They stay there and they go into the vacuum and travel to whatever light in the sky. That's all been brainwashed into you from birth. So if you come along and present an argument that something's fake because you can see a high wire, they'll just go, nah. They'll just say no. Or, worst case scenario, they'll go to some elaborate description of how, they have to hoax you with the stuff that they show you on TV because there's a secret moon program that they can't tell you about. It's the aliens and some of the wild conspiracy theory that they've got to back up the nonsense that is the fakery and CGI that they present you on TV and in the news of space, which is fake. But if you try and go down that avenue, most of the arguments will take place in the medium of the fake space that you can't have if we're to breathe gas pressure. But most people don't recognise the simplicity of that argument, or didn't 12 months ago. You know, don't get me wrong, it's not reached the masses, but a lot of the people we're going to cross paths with are arguing this and winning because it's undebunkable. But your average Joe isn't going to get that even if you explain it to him because the brainwashing's so strong. No, when I've had that argument occasionally with somebody who's completely closed-minded, I will literally just explain it the way it's been explained here, and the answer from them is quite simple. No. That's their answer.
Gradient.
Or go outside.
Yeah, go outside and
that
affirm my
proves
religion.
gas pressure. That proves our point, not theirs.
Yeah, but that's how they're wired. They're wired because they already know space is real and people are travelling to it even though they've never experienced it. Therefore, you go outside and I say, well, how can we have gas pressure? They'll go, well, yeah, but the sky is still a vacuum. Therefore, it works somehow. And then they have a little hunt potentially and find gravity nonsense and forces that aren't forces you can think of as forces that will bend conceptual mediums known as pseudo-fake sham geometry. You know, you might find your way to that and get so confused that you go, oh, well, I don't really understand it, but the sky's still a vacuum. It's on TV.
Gases fall to the earth, right? I loved it the other day when you said, okay, let's look at water evaporating. Is it
Right.
falling to the earth? Unbelievable. They still don't get it.
They do.
But then after he conceded that, the gas that's evaporated, the water that evaporated turns to gas and goes up, he still continued with the argument. Like, not even understanding that he just conceded to that.
That's where they're expressing their pain. I mean, that's a different psychological discussion. But at that point, when the guy was laughing, it's cognitive dissonance because he knows that he's holding a position that contradicts something that's reality and he knows is true and has been educated into him in 7th grade. You know, I don't think it was even in science. I think it was in geography for me. Nevertheless, at a base level, the guy does understand this. Therefore, when you have that contradiction, it's mentally painful. And normally, the coping mechanism will be either to shout it down, rebel against it, or laugh. It's a weird reaction, but that is a natural reaction. So when they laugh, because it doesn't make any sense, it's like, this is silly, I don't fry my brain. You end up with laughter. I don't know why, but that's how it comes out of a lot of people. He was no exception. But it's pain. It's really pain. Because he can't mentally square that circle. It does not make sense. It's a contradiction. But at the end of the whole process, he's still going to say, yeah, well, gravity's being in effect and a force and it's holding gas to the ground and it's not escaping into a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum because gas that's going up is being held down with gravity. Yeah.
I love that.
You're gonna get that today. Oh, you're gonna get that yesterday with the what I'm calling him now, the photosynthetic redneck. Oh boy!
Now, in your presentation, you've got him down as no marble or something. What is it you called him in quotes?
No marbles.
No marbles.
I like that one. No marbles. I read that. I was like, yeah, that's funny.
Or you could call him lost marbles.
Did that? Was that lost on you, Nathan?
No, it wasn't that it was lost on me. I thought it was better than Blue Marble, the redneck retard, or whatever you were calling him prior to this.
Hillbilly blue balls.
Blue balls.
Retard. Yeah, that's a little bit long. So we'll go with no marbles, but I think the name change is coming. It's going to be the photosynthetic redneck. You'll know why. Hold on.
Didn't get a great laugh this time.
It will after.
Is it because there are algae growing on his skin?
I loved it. Thank you, Brian. Like I said, thank you for that. But he got everything wrong in 3 hours. Everything that came out of his mouth was wrong. Everything.
Yeah, some of the statements, I was like, did he really say this crap? Oh my god. Then I gotta think, well, this is Mr. Two Containers. So yeah.
I'm getting a little tired of protecting quantum erasure.
His entire stick for the past, I don't know, what's it been, 8 or 9 months, has been focused on his misunderstanding of one word in a citation. That's it. It's all. It's so stupid.
So he's kind of like a little bit more active than Sean Hawkins type person. He does a little bit more, but it's basically the same blind assertion, double speak nonsense constantly.
No, he's gone out and practically demonstrated that you can't have gas pressure without a container. He's actually gone out and shown that.
Right.
And on a chat somewhere, he asked somebody for a citation that a pipe is a container for pressurized gas. He needed a citation for that.
I have him.
I have the screenshot of that too. If you want.
I have him dancing around in circles in the chat because obviously his demonstration is to assert that he has achieved gas pressure without a container. So then you say, okay, so the gas pressure, so it was contained in the pipe then. So he's then got two choices: either say no, the gas wasn't contained in the pipe, which is to say, I haven't demonstrated anything because the whole point of his demonstration is to show that he's having gas pressure without any containment. And to have the gas pressure in the pipe, he's showing that you can have gas pressure because he's got it contained in the pipe. So then he's either got to say, no, the pipe wasn't containing gas. Well, how are you demonstrating gas pressure without a container then? You're supposed to be showing that you've got gas pressure. That's the whole point. Or say, yeah, the pipe did contain gas. And obviously my response, so it is a container then. So he's got. So I just have him, whenever he comes into any of the chats, which he does fairly frequently, he's a fan of the show, I just whip him around in circles indefinitely for the whole time he's there with that exactly that. Just go round and round. So did it contain gas then? Was it showing that you can have gas pressure because you managed to show that the pipe was containing it and giving you gas pressure without a container? And so it goes round and round and round and round with the dumb rednecks stating the same nonsense over and over again. And occasionally, the best bit of this, right, is I only do it long enough so that someone on his own side, most recently a cum virus, pipes up alongside him. Because then what you do is very quickly get them, who haven't been whipped in this circle so many times, to concede that a pipe is a container, which they normally do pretty quickly. And then I set them against each other. So come on, a virus, tell Blue Marble, like you've just told me, that the pipe was containing gas.
Yeah.
And then you just set them on each other. That's fun.
Thank you for teaching us your war strategies, oh General.
Yeah, that was yesterday. Yeah, I got another little gem out of that chat, by the way. That's going to be the encore that you don't have.
Oh, okay, go on. I was just about to round out the show, and now you're talking about encores.
You'll see the encore. You'll see it later day.
Oh, okay,
at least he's got one famous fan following him, and that would be the prestigious Dr. Danny Faulkner.
Yeah, Daniel. What a muppet.
Doesn't look like we're going to find out what the encore is going to be. Are we? One more hint.
No hints.
I put that citation. I put the screenshot in Ballbusters if you want to look at it real quick.
I'll stick it on screen just before we round out. But I'll do, while that's on screen, do you want to read it? And then I'll do a plug. Want to read it out, Chocolate?
Yeah, it says at Rakia Life, still waiting for a citation that says an open pipe is a container for pressurized gas. Show it to me.
I'm telling you, I'm going to show you the exact citation that has spurred this whole thing and is at the basis of this question. I'm going to show you it. I already showed it a week ago. No one caught on to it, but I'll show it to you.
Okay, so I'll do a proper plug for that. So that's Quantum Eraser, and it went out yesterday. For those of you watching this on, which you are, the Uncut and After Show on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. So be here or be sphere yesterday for Quantum Eraser stream. Obviously, it's all public and published now, so check it out on the Quantum Eraser channel. With that, I'll say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to you, all of you in the Nathan Oakley premiering stream audience, for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!